the route setters about the bouldering, especially. Percy Bishton, head route setter, said this is going to be a selective round for the girls, which is, I think, route setter code for quite hard.
Yeah, that was something we saw last night, actually. We only had one climber, Manuel Cornu, he of the unmistakable leopard haircut, who got 3 tops. Nobody else managed 3. So a pretty tough round, and one, depending on the number of attempts, 1 top was enough to get you into the final. You can see there's our setup in Paris. On the left we've got the speed climbing wall that was used last night for the paraclimbing, and there's our enormous lead wall with the men's semi-final lead route. Of course, we've got 26 men to climb on that, and then you can see bottom left of your screen is the boulder. The bouldering wall, I would say, is less steep than average for a competition bouldering wall. There's a very hard slab for men's 4, just as there was for women's 4 last night. But generally, the angle is not as steep as we sometimes see in competitions, so the problems are especially technical.
Well, I think that's going to be the case in the women's bouldering as well. Again, like we've just been through the boulders with the route setters, they will climb right to left on the wall as you see it. So starting on boulder number 1, we have what's only described as not an easy start from Percy. There's no thanks for coming, no easy welcome boulder. It's very selective, straight out of the traps. What's interesting when we look at the women's bouldering list, it's quite a selective list in that there's quite a mixed ability. Quite a few new faces into a bouldering semi-final. Again, yeah, like I said, a range of abilities all the way through to the top. Realistically, when we get down to Anna Stor, the top 10, they're the ones we're really looking out for, and route set is kind of saying that we're not going to see that many tops until then, but this is bouldering. We don't really know what's going to happen.
And we can have a look there at the men's lead route. I was chatting to Adam Pustelnik, one of our route setters. He's not the chief lead route setter this weekend, but those of you who watch our lead coverage throughout the year will probably know him from co-commentary duties. I think he would best be described as a very enthusiastic co-commentator. Adam was saying earlier that this men's route, it's powerful. He said there's no footholds until that red triangle, which we can see on the screen now. When he says the red triangle, he means the enormous volume that dominates essentially this Bercy wall. He said there's 1 foothold up to there. So there's a lot of mantling. It's technical. And there's also a lot of long moves. And there's also a 360 move in the route. So as the climbers get onto the huge red volume in the middle of the wall, the best way of doing that move onto those 2 holes that you can see, the yellow one on the right and the orange one on the left on the blue volume, bottom right of the huge triangle. The best way of doing that is to actually swing out and face the crowd and then cut back in. So you do a full 360-degree rotation. That is the best way of doing it. Whether the climbers do it that way, it will be very interesting to see. We will keep an eye on the lead, but as I say, we are primarily focusing on bouldering.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that section of the route, Charlie. Everyone loves a bit of a spin and a campus, and hopefully the athletes will put on a show for the guys.
And just to run you down our start list today for the semi-final women's bouldering. Alma Bestvater of Germany, she'll be out first. Alena Yip, Andrea Ebner, Berit Schweiger, Elena Krasovkaya, Mi Kastet, Lily Kiesgen, Chloe Collier, Marine Thévenet and Hannah Mitbo will be our first 10 climbers out. And then we get to Petra Klingler. Monica Recci, what an up and down season she's had. She starts 12th. She'll be followed by Anna Stor, Megan Mascarenas, Clementine Kaiser, Melissa Leneve, the 2 French girls, Stasha Geho, Katja Zauvine, Akia Noguchi and Miho Nanaka. Of course, Shauna Coxey, who won the IFSC Boulder World Cup Series in 2016, injured her shoulder in Munich in the final World Cup of the year. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing her in action, but it does mean she won't be doing the double. Somebody will claim the World Championship today. It is not Shauna Coxey. They're going to have to share the honours for 2016.
I think it's a real disappointment not to see Shauna, but that is elite sport. Injuries can happen at any time, and in a way it was fortunate for Shauna to be able to get all the way through the season, possibly carrying slight injuries all the way. But I think the crowd will miss Shauna. But there's plenty of big names, especially in the top 10, who are more than capable of filling her shoes. Just as we look then straight into women's 1, Alma Bestvater, route setters say this is a bit of a jump there, and that's exactly what they were describing. off the left-hand sloper into the right-hand jug that has been blocked up with a few other holds. But the right-hand foot that she's trying to land there, she's actually going to get that. She was going to say she was going to get that brush, but the right-hand foothold is a volume which is completely smooth. So the root setters have wheeled out these dual texture volumes once again, which is pretty harsh. But I think the girls will be all right on boulder number 1, landing that foothold, even though it is pretty slippery, but it is big.
Yeah, we saw a lot of this yesterday in the men's bouldering semi-final. If you haven't seen it, it's worth going back and watching. Really tough round with a lot of these dual texture volumes. One side of the volume very useful, the other side not very useful at all. And naturally, root setters being root setters, and I have to watch my P's and Q's here because Mike Langley sitting next to me is chief root setter at the Castle Climbing Wall in London. Being root setters, they obviously made the face of the volume that you most want to have high friction. They made that the low friction part.
Yeah, definitely on this women's one as well. They've got to use that slippery side of that volume quite a lot. They've actually got to get fully on board it and turn around the corner onto the friction side. So I imagine we're going to see quite a lot of attempts getting burnt standing on this volume. But this is going to be our first example here with Alma. Let's see what she makes of it. Looking pretty solid so far, Charlie, I would say.
Yeah, and this is, however, one of the crux moves, this swap, because the panel that she has her feet on is low friction, so you can see her right foot planted there. The fact the light is shining off it so effectively gives you some idea that it is not a grainy high friction surface, but she's already got her foot onto the right hand side of the volume slightly where there's a lot more friction, a lot more joy.
It's all eyes on Alma right now. She's the only competitor out on the wall and looking really, really strong. Come on, Alma, come on.
Be good to see an early top on this women's one. You can see her just fighting, trying to get in balance.
Come on. Yeah.
Great work. Okay, so first climber out onto women's one. And we have a top.
It's a dream start from the German athlete there. She will be absolutely ecstatic with that. Really, really brilliant start. And that might have surprised the root setters a little bit there. They weren't really expecting to see too many tops on the first boulder. But time will tell how we get on with that one.
Yeah, next out we'll have Alana Yip of Canada, lives in North Vancouver, as do quite a few of our athletes. Very good training facilities up there. Let's have another look at Alma here.
That move is exactly what the root setters was describing, where the left hand comes off as your foot hits the right hand volume. It's a pretty cool move.
Yeah, I was about to say Alana Yip. She's had an interesting year. She's climbing in multiple disciplines here in Paris. But she has been in boulder semi-finals already this year, no less than 4. Mirroring in Kazo, Mumbai and Innsbruck, a best finish of 13th. That was in Kazo. So no stranger to a semi-final, but as we said yesterday, the World Championship is a huge step up in terms of prestige and spectators and the size of the arena. The arena we're in is absolutely enormous. I'm told by the organisers they've had Bruce Springsteen here already. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are coming in a few weeks. Justin Bieber's here on Monday, so unfortunately my flight is already booked for Monday morning back home, so I'm going to miss that one. But I called the airline to see if I could extend, but no joy. But I've got over it pretty quickly actually. But yeah, Bieber's. Yeah, we're at the end of where I think the stage goes, so Justin Bieber might be right where we are on Monday. How utterly unexciting.
Well, I don't know about you, Charlie, but I'd much rather watch the athletes here today than Justin Bieber. This is definitely my entertainment.
Well, I'd rather watch paint dry than Justin Bieber, but luckily we've got world-class climbing in his place. So, Alan, I wonder if she knows, I suspect she does, from the fact that Alma was in early, that Alma topped women's one. It took Alma a while to figure it out, though, so perseverance is rewarded here. As we've mentioned, these dual texture volumes, I
was just talking earlier about, Charlie, about the sort of different levels potentially we've got here in the semi-finals. It's quite interesting when you have a look at the list throughout the season. We've had 19 different female athletes make finals in a World Cup this year. It just shows you how vast the field is and how difficult it is to make finals. So many different of these, so many different female athletes, just have got the potential to make the final. So it's going to be really fierce competition.
So Alana still just trying to read this one. It seemed as if Alma Besvarta got the beater slightly quicker. Still didn't do it first time once she'd figured it out. But it's more physical than it looks as well, this boulder. It's quite a battle, that move right.
I think the girls will be quite pleased to come out to a boulder like this in many ways, though. It's a bit more conventional to what they might be used to, quite dynamic, explosive moves off big slopers, and they can warm up for that quite easily. They've got really good warm-up facilities here, so they should be ready for this, ready to have a fight, and they're going to know this is the World Championship semi-final, and they've got some really strong contenders behind them, so they'll feel it out and start battling.
So for those of you just tuning in on this Saturday morning, well done at getting up relatively early on a Saturday morning. We're live in Paris, myself and Mike Langley, head route setter at the Castle Climbing Wall in London. Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. It is our special hashtag for this event. If you've got any questions, comments or opinion, get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. And today we're primarily showing the women's bouldering semi-final, but going on simultaneously is the men's lead. If you would like to watch just the men's lead, you can do so. Click on the appropriate button on YouTube, and you can also watch our split coverage with French commentary if you wish to. So plenty of options. As of this afternoon, we are back to one event at a time. So just to run you through the schedule, there's the opening ceremony at 5 p.m. this evening, and then we'll be live for the men's boulder final at 5:30 p.m. 7 p.m. we've got the paraclimbing male B1 final. That'll be followed by the podium for both those events. Then at 9 p.m. we have the men's speed final, which will be followed by the women's lead final, and then the podium ceremony for both those events. So a packed afternoon. You get a few hours off in the middle of this afternoon to head out for a climb or a drink, depending on the weather, between about midday and 5:30 this evening, Paris time. Of course, all times are local, so adjust accordingly. If you didn't remember all those times, head to the IFSC website, and we have a full list of what's on and when.
That's right, Charlie. It's going to be a really great evening of climbing. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that much climbing in one day before, so it's going to be great. And watching all the different disciplines, we're going to see some speed tonight as well. With the recent Olympic successes, that's going to be really great to see how that builds up. And that, just for me anyway, looking around the arena and speaking to athletes, there's been a great vibe about the speed. There's a lot of people really up for the speed final tonight. Elena Yip then, just 22 seconds left of her 5-minute allotted time period. Doesn't look like it's going to be enough to get to the end of this boulder. And that is it. Her race is run on boulder number 1. She was slightly disappointed with that, but hopefully she can keep her head up and head into boulders 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah, Alma Besvarta came out there and with a minute and a half left was on top of the boulder. Alana, as I say, made 4 semi-finals thus far this year. No joy so far. This is our first look at women's 1 with Andrea Ebner and Alma with a top already under her belt. She's out onto women's 2.
Yeah, that's right. We get the first opportunity to have a look at women's boulder 2 here in the semi-finals, which basically has 2 starting jugs, and that is it until the finish hold, which is just all volumes from there on in. Very technical, lots of lay backing, a lot of smearing. A real nightmare for the climbers, this one. It's quite high, the wall as well, and I think quite intimidating to stand under that, to only have 2 starting jugs and then just a set of volumes to get to the top. I think it's going to be really interesting. This is one of those ones that's very difficult to tell the difficulty. Route setters, even they said, this is a hard one to kind of gauge how difficult it is. Some climbers will love this style, some will absolutely hate it. But let's have a look at Alma, see how she gets on. This is the first climber we're going to see on it, so it'll give us a good idea.
Yeah, just to give you some idea of the beater, the best way the route setters think to do it is to lay back the volume that Alma's about to grab, there we go, and continue facing to the left as she's doing until you've got your hands on the bonus hold, which is the next hold after this volume. Once you've got the bonus hold, that's when you turn to face the right, and then you go for the top hold. So don't go too early on the turn. We see Alma possibly contemplating turning to the right now. Let's see. Now I think she's going to carry it. She's going to face pretty much straight in. It's quite a powerful way of doing it, to pinch the volume like that. But as I say, the route setters think the best way to do it is lay back it facing left really for as long as possible before the turn to the right.
I think staying front on like she was there is going to be really, really hard. In route setting or in climbing, especially in the UK, we use the word guppy. Might have to look at the climbing terminology book for the actual meaning of that, but basically clasping the volume between the palms of your hands and trying to make upwards progression like that, and it's savage on the wrists and on the hands, so she doesn't want to try and use too many goes just like that. Hopefully she'll find a method of laybacking. It's almost like a traditional outside route, laybacking up an arete like that.
It's very British gritstone. But yeah, it's the way that Andrea is trying to do it there is particularly savage. That's that volume it's on it ever so slightly off vertical wall, but the volume is steep. Trying to pinch it like that is going to be pretty tricky.
The thing is, I think it sort of leads you to naturally want to go up the front of the volume, because you do need to make the transition round the corner later on, so they might want to try and go front on early.
You've also got to make the transition onto the layback from the starting holds as well. We saw there Andrea just struggling to get both hands onto that volume. I have to say, standing at the bottom, this looks a very tough boulder. It's hard to rank them in terms of the hardest one, but certainly women's 2 looks particularly brutal.
Had a great look at there, Andre Ebner from Italy. Struggling also, but made good progression, made it up to the bonus. Through those 2 green volumes, the first one, the left hand, the bonus, route set is saying you can either match both of them, starting with the left, match it, work your way through to the right, or cross through, cross under, start with the left hand, hold with your right hand, cross under it to the right hand, hold with your left hand, and then make your way up to the finish hold, which, as we saw with the first climb, Alma, is actually a pretty decent hold, so hopefully won't have too many spills going for the final jug.
Just to let you know, that's not Alana Yip on women's 2. That is, of course, Alma Bestvater. We've already seen her attempts at this very, very difficult. I don't want to say desperate just yet. We'll get a few more climbers on it yet. Perhaps if you figure out the beater, it looks slightly easier than it currently is doing. But certainly very tough, very technical women's 2. We have got as I said earlier, a slightly mellower angled wall than we often see in bouldering competitions here in Paris. Technicality rules here.
Well, I think what you're seeing here as well, the wall might be a mellow angle, but the boulders definitely aren't mellow. The climber on boulder 1 there just landed virtually straight on, back slapped onto the mat. But she's fine, she's going to crack on for another go. Just 30 seconds remaining for her on boulder number 1 if she wants to make any impression on this semi-finals. Yeah,
Andrea Ebner, she's seems to have that move right dialed so far. She was up here earlier on her previous attempt, but the dual texture volume is that panel that she currently has her right foot on, very low friction, and it means you just can't move on it quite the way you want to, as we saw there. She just shifted her body weight, and no joy.
So we get straight into a new rotation.
This will be our first look at Berit Schweiger. There she is. There's a bit of a roar from the crowd there, as we just saw one of our competitors on the men's lead semi-final. I can't make out who it is from here. We're actually quite a long way from the men's lead wall. We do have both events going on simultaneously, the men's lead semi-final and women's boulder semi-final. You can watch just the lead if you choose to. Click the button on YouTube. We'll keep you up to date with the scores as that competition progresses. But as I say, we're focusing primarily on the women's bouldering. So Berit Schweiger's out on women's 1. Alana Yip, no joy on women's 1. She's out onto number 2.
There's quite a few noticeable absentees from the women's semi-final list here. Quite a lot of the strong climbers who have so far this season have made regular finals. Someone like Leah Crane from Great Britain, Michaela Tracy, Fanny Gibert from France. Neither of those lot making it through. Charlotte Drift even, Sierra Blair Coyle. None of these guys making it through to the semi-final. So the qualifying round was a bit hit or miss for some of the talented athletes who have made regular semi-finals, and would have expected to get through. So some disappointed faces out there already, but they'll be watching in the crowd, I'm sure, cheering on their fellow climbers.
Yeah, we're in this enormous arena here in Paris. Yesterday was not a sellout, but I believe today is, and although it's only 9:15 and we've got action for pretty much more than 12 hours today, although admittedly with a long break in the middle. The arena already filling up the top parts of the stand. Already have people in them. And I believe by this evening it is going to be absolutely packed. Fantastic to see. 12,000 seater capacity arena for climbing. So Eleanor is just trying to stop that rotation as she goes for that volume, that second volume after the starting holds. It's really hard to keep your balance, keep your centre of gravity where it needs to be, keep your weight to the right as we look at it of that volume. We've seen a few methods used so far, unfortunately non-successful. Alma Bestvart of course tried to pinch it initially, but the layback is definitely the best way to do it. Might not be the only way to do it.
Just so we have a look back here at Berit Schwager from Austria. She's part of an extremely strong Austrian contingent here in Paris. She's actually had some pretty good performances this year, actually world ranked 15th, so she's at home on these semi-finals, and did have a 9th place result in Vail, USA earlier this year, so she's got the potential to make an impression on this semi-finals list, and looking pretty solid now. Oh, just as I say that, off she goes.
Commentator's curse is obviously contagious. So just to remind you, if you are just tuning in, that myself and Mike Langley have the women's bouldering semi-final. The men's lead is going on simultaneously. Let's have a quick look at the scores for that. We're on to our fourth climber on the men's lead as we have a slight break in the action here in the women's bouldering. Yeah, on our fourth climber, David Fernenberg is out. Also saw him competing in the speed, so he's got a pretty packed schedule. We've already had Naoki Shimatani, Kevin Husa and Fedor Samoilov of the Ukraine. And so far it's Fedor who leads the way, 30 to Kevin Husa's 24 plus and Naoki Shimatani's 21. They are the only three climbers out thus far on that men's lead route. David Fernenberg currently on the route, and from what little we can make out from our commentary position, looking in control and about to hit the 360 move that we mentioned earlier. As I say, you can watch that lead semi-final live if you would prefer to. We're focusing on the bouldering though, and in particular Berit Schwager, not getting on with women's one at this stage. Just has a quick look at the clock. It's got 40 seconds there. You can see it bottom right of your screen. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, observations, analysis, we always welcome predictions as well. Get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. Throughout the weekend, including today, our action-packed Saturday here in Paris, we are going to have different co-commentators alongside myself and Mike. It's going to be three of us in the commentary box most of the time. We're just waiting for our first athlete to turn up. But we are going to have athletes from lead, boulder and speed and paraclimb. We're going to have climbing coaches, route setters. Might even try and get our hands on some IFSC officials so you can understand better what it is they do. So in addition to a packed schedule of world-class climbing action, we're also going to have an action-packed schedule of guest analysis and insight.
Get a great close-up here, a couple of replays of boulders 1 and 2. Definitely the route setters have given them no gimmies this round. Traditionally, you might have thought that the route setters give them a bit of a steady start, but not in the semi-finals.
Now Alma Bestvater's out again, onto women's 3. This round flying by already. Already onto women's 3.
Yeah, women's 3 will be, I think the climbers, will be pretty excited to see this one. Overhanging wall at last, and some bit more dynamic moves. Quite a lot of compression involved this one, so it'll be a very tiring boulder. But this is number 3, so that might come in important later on in the round. The fitness that these guys, obviously they've had quite a lot of rest before this semi-final round from the qualification 2 days ago. But the women's 3, so it starts with this sort of shouldery press maneuver, and then you're up into the blue volumes and fighting your way through them. But again, it's powerful, but it's really physical, which is a bit of a theme this weekend on these boulders.
Yeah, Elena Krasvakoya
making great progress here from Elena. She's making short work of number 1. Hope she can finish it off. Dream start to her semi-finals. Yeah.
Krasvakoya, that's pretty impressive. Good start from her. More than 3 minutes left on the round. Just needs to match. It's not done just yet. She's still trying to figure that out. Doesn't want to drop it here, so close. She's in a relatively comfortable position, so she can just figure out how this is going to work.
She's really fighting there, just because that volume's leading off to the right. But gets a toe hook, secures the finish hold. Happy lady.
Elena Krasovskaya, no problem there. So we can go back to women's 3. As I say, that's not Berit Schweiger on women's 3. That is Alma Bestvater. And this women's 3, as well as being physical, is actually quite a sequence to it. I have to say, when you're standing underneath it, as we were half an hour or so ago, it looks relatively easy to read, but actually the easiest and most efficient way of doing it is not that easy to read. There's actually quite a specific sequence that makes it massively more doable than if you just power your way up it. So a lot of this is going to be who reads it best.
I think the route setters were saying as well, there's a chance of a bit of a knee bar or a knee scum or a bit of a heel hook in between those volumes. So if you find that, I think it's going to make progression from the undercut up to the yellow hold and the rep much easier. Just have a look back here at Eleanor, making short work of women's number 1. It just seems to be a bit of a theme. You can either do that move or you can't at the moment. But Eleanor had absolutely no problems at all. She did have to work for the match on the finish, but overall not too bad.
Yeah, nice and controlled there. Just take your time. 3.5 minutes left on the clock. One hand already on the top hold. There's still no joy for Alma on women's 3.
Can't help but think with the amount of taping that she's got on her shoulders there, she's not really going to be enjoying this first move. You do see a lot of this kinesio tape on the athletes. You do wonder how much that is kind of just to help their performance or if it's covering up for an injury. Never quite know. But hopefully it's not causing her too many sort of pains or difficulties through that shoulder resection. But at the moment she's not really making any progress on that.
Now I see the key holds being clean. The bonus relatively low down on this boulder, so we'd expect to see quite a few bonuses, but from what we've seen in this first 4 minutes of action on women's 3, possibly not that many tops. Alma, very good start to the round. You can see as well Andrea Ebner on women's 2 on the right hand side of your screen. Just to let you know, we do simultaneously have the men's lead semi-final going on. Click on YouTube if you would prefer to watch that. We're going to be focusing primarily on bouldering.
Yeah, we've not had much joy on women's 2 either. So far, not so good. Not enjoying the laybacking. Very technical. Very hard to come out on a boulder like that in a World Cup semi-final. The nerves are going to be kind of running high, and it's all about just keeping you cool, staying calm, and trying not to wobble off.
So just to confirm, David Fernenberg, who was out on the men's lead route earlier, he got 26 plus. That's enough to put him in an early second place. We will keep an eye on the scores for the men's lead semi-final, but we're going to be focusing our footage on the women's bouldering and Alma Yip in particular right now, as she comes out for women's 3 and Berit Schweiger's back out. She's on to women's 2. Let's have another look at Andrea Ebner. Just trying to figure out different methods. That's it.
Liking that bit of a heel toe lock there.
Yeah, that I have to say that initially looked quite promising. I wonder if anyone else will spot that. Just from watching Andrea there, that certainly seemed to yield something to keep her on for that move upwards onto the second volume. You do need something because it's a tenuous move. So perhaps some other climbers will spot that. I have to say the route setters didn't mention it, whether they knew that heel toe hook was there. Try saying that after a few beers. I don't know, but yeah, Andrea spotted it. Could be an interesting early bit of beta.
I'm going to stick my neck on the line here, Charlie, and say when we see Anna Storr come out later, I think she's going to run up this. I could be eating my own words there, but having watched her recently, she's really on fire for this World Championship. It's a bit of a mixed season. I'm really looking forward to seeing her later on. Yeah, I think she will really enjoy this boulder. Got a lot of experience on these bigger volumes. She's better, hopefully, be able to see her rush up it.
All right, there you go, Mike. I'm going to remember that. Everybody watching, you heard that, didn't you? Put a bit of pressure on Mike. Anna Storr, he fancies her for that second women's boulder. So Alma Yip, she's out on women's 3, and Berit Schweiger is trying the so far unconquered at women's 2. So neither of these boulders that we're currently focusing on have been climbed just yet.
Just off screen there on the right, you can just see her legs. That's the climber from Norway, Marie-Therese Castet from Norway. Marie's actually one of our oldest competitors, 31, world ranked 60th, so to get through to the World Championships semi-finals, absolutely cracking result for her. Results this season, 68th and 23rd, Munich and Meiringen respectively. So, yeah, she's done really well to get through to the semis. Hopefully we can catch a bit of action of her as she comes through the later stages. So far on the bouldering women's though, as you can see on your screen there, quite a bit of standing on the mats, shaking of the heads, not quite sure what's going on, and as the route setter said, an extremely selective round expected here. You can just say May there from Castet, May Castet from Norway. See how she gets on boulder 1, just over 2 minutes left, so plenty of time. We have seen this boulder topped a couple of times. Yeah, you can see that just as she's diving rightwards, she needs to keep her feet up quite high. And yeah, if she doesn't do that, she's not going to be able to land that move. You either need to hit your right foot and your right hand at the same time.
So we've got our first celebrity guest in the IFSC commentary box today, Camel Harrison, Team Australia. For people that haven't seen the results, tell us how you've got on in Paris so far and how you've enjoyed the experience.
Oh, yeah, no, it's been an amazing experience for sure. The competition's gone not too badly for me. No semi-finals in boulder or lead, unfortunately, but I think I managed to climb well enough in both. I didn't make any big mistakes. I climbed freely and enjoyed myself, so I'm really happy to finish my senior season with a couple solid climbs.
And what's your season been like? How have you enjoyed the whole process in the 2016 World Cups, especially with the Olympic announcement coming midway through the season?
Yeah, no, it's been full on. It's my first attempt at the senior circuit. I've been doing the youths for a few years now, but I decided now was the time I was going to give it a go with my last year of youths this year. Yeah, it started off all right. I saw a lot of potential, and then it started to get a little bit rocky. I think it's so hard to deal with the pressure at the senior level. It's so different to the youth. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag, but I've definitely had a few climbs where I've been really psyched and really impressed with my ability, and I think I just need to work on that headspace and getting those final touches in to make it consistent performance. But really enjoying my time here for sure.
And so has that been the biggest difference for you, the pressure? I mean, is that the biggest step up, or is it just the pure physical difficulty of the climbing?
That's a good question. I think the headspace is different in the opens compared to the youth. The youth routes tend to be quite consistent, and the routes are generally very similar, I find, whereas in the seniors, you can get anything. The route setters will literally put up anything. You can get easy climbing for 30 moves, and then all of a sudden there's a crux, and you just have to be prepared to deal with it in that moment, no matter how easy the climbing has been until then. And I think making those quick switches from being super solid to super uncomfortable are really struggling to deal with throughout the season. But yeah, so it's a bit of a mixture of both. Obviously you have to be strong enough and fit enough to pull off the climbs, but to be able to do them in an unfamiliar situation is really crucial too.
Just back into the action here on the bouldering wall. We get our first look at women's boulder number 4. Pure slab climbing, possibly suggested to be slightly easier in some of the other blocks so far in the competition. So hopefully we'll start seeing some tops in this competition. I'm sure the girls will be slightly relieved to see a slightly easier boulder. Do have a judge on the stage here, so some possibility of a slight technical incident, so we will keep an eye on that just to check, see what's happening. The climbing continues on 2, 3 and 4. So the first climber we have seen on number 4 is Alma Betts Svarta. There she is, wearing 70. Really technical section through the volumes, then into some horrific crimps, and this is the way the route set suggested. Bit of a match onto that penultimate hold, the bonus hold. Then it's a standing up onto the right-hand volume and a bit of a slam dunk to finish. Hopefully she can make steady progress here. Come on, Alma. Come on, commitment. Come on. Oh, can't get any closer to that. She's going to be absolutely gutted with that, and you can see it on her face. Big disappointment.
And Campbell, this year on the IFSC, how have you found the route setting and the style of the routes? Is there a big change in the competitions you've come from before?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a big difference between the route setting in Australian competitions and the route setting in the IFSC, but also a big difference between the seniors and the youths for sure. I guess one thing I've really found is that there's no specific style to the routes. You can get a route that's super cruisy until one move, or you can get a route where every single move is challenging. Some of them are balancing and technical, some of them are just super powerful and you know, traditionally hard. And so that's the biggest thing. I kind of expected that I'd come here and get a feel for this you know, quote-unquote World Cup style, but really a World Cup style is just being prepared for anything in any moment. And so that's been a really big learning curve for me going through the season.
And what can you do to kind of improve on that? What is the best thing you can do? Just keep climbing on these routes and boulders that are being set by the IFSC setters? I mean, is there anything you can do back in the gym to try and improve that?
Well, you know, back at the gym, just making sure you're as fit and as strong as you can be, and training as hard and as well as you can, because obviously no matter how many World Cups you do, if you're not fit and strong enough, you're not going to get up the wall. But yeah, no, I think the more competitions you do, the better prepared you're going to be for competitions. It's as simple as that. Training on hard plastic routes.
Back in the action there, you can see the first top we've had on women's number 4, so the route set's predicted it right. They think that's one of the easier boulders. Alma making relatively short work of that. I think that was her second attempt, so she'll be pleased to go out in the semi-final on a bit of a high.
Yeah, just to keep you up to date with the men's lead semi-final, Loic Timmermans of Belgium. He's taken an early lead, 35 plus. We will show you occasional parts of the men's lead semi-final, but we're going to be focusing mainly on the women's boulder semi-final. You can, of course, concentrate on the men's lead. Click the button on YouTube. In the meantime, we've got IFSC athlete Campbell Harrison here. If you've got any questions for him, you've got any observations about today's action, or predictions, we always welcome predictions. Get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. It is our special hashtag, especially for these championships. It's not our normal World Cup one. IFSCWCH.
Just to recap there, Charlie, we did have a technical incident on women's boulder number 1. I do believe there was an issue with one of the holds, so that has been sorted by the route setting team. Did see Percy sprinting across the stage in his flip-flops, running through his drill. So there's obviously been a slight incident there, but I do believe that is sorted and women's 1 is back underway.
I hope we can get a replay of that. I was just checking the men's lead score and I missed Percy with his dash in front of the Accor Arena in his flip-flops. Of course, Percy Bishon is our head bouldering route setter here. He also co-commentated with me in Munich back in August, about a month or so ago. Very well known on the competition climbing and bouldering scene.
I do believe that means we have Lily Kiesgen, back out on women's number 1. So I'm not even sure she made a start on that. I believe her time has pretty much started back at 5 minutes. So we will see how that affects the rest of the competition. The technical delegates here having to work pretty hard early in the morning. It's quite a lot going on, so it's hard work for them, but they seem to have got it under control. And the athletes are back on women's number 1.
Yeah, and just to keep you up to date with the men's lead, Alberto Gotta of Italy is currently on the wall, and we mentioned earlier that there's a 360 turn in about midway up this men's lead semi-final route. He figured that one out. I saw it from across the arena. As I say, if you want on YouTube, you can get that on as well. If you're lucky enough to have 2 screens, you can watch both at the same time, which I think is a solution that a few people employed last night during our coverage of the men's bouldering semi-final and women's lead.
Just going to say, Charlie, I just glanced over at the lead wall there. I've just seen one of the athletes do a 1-arm pull-up with no feet. So I would definitely, if you have the option for a couple of screens, maybe knock on your neighbours, steal their computer if you don't have more than one, to make sure you get both of those going at the same time. It's absolutely brilliant action here in Paris.
Mike, you've just set off a chain of 10,000 people knocking on neighbours' doors. It's going to be a lot of borrowed computers. Yeah, so Alberto Gotta, I just mentioned him, he's currently sitting fourth, he got 25 plus. If you are new to climbing, we hopefully do have people watching our coverage who don't normally watch climbing. In lead climbing, the name of the game is to get as high on the wall as you can, and your score is the number of the hold you got to. So if you get to hold number 40, the route setters have designated hold number 40, your score is 40, so it's who gets the highest in the very simplest of terms. In bouldering, it's a four-tiered scoring system. The most important measurement is how many boulders you top. Second most important measurement is how many attempts there's required. If competitors are still tied after tops and attempts, it comes down to who got the most bonus holds. You can see there the yellow tape denotes the bonus hold. If the competitors are still tied, it comes down to who took the fewest attempts to get those bonus holds. It's a four-tiered scoring system.
Titsi, the Austrian climber, they're making pretty good work on women's free, so that's the highest we've seen somebody get so far on that boulder, giving us a bit of an insight into those top moves. And on to women's four as well, there's good progress there as well.
Keep an eye on the top of your screen for the updated results. We'll keep flashing them up as and when we get them.
So on number one there, I do believe that isn't actually Chloe Collier there. Due to the technical incident, that is the climber before Lily Kiesjen. But we will keep a track on that, 100% sure. Yeah, pretty sure that's athlete number 14 from Germany. Here we go then on a final problem of the morning. Lana Yip onto the slab, so close to making a top here. Let's hope she can figure out this top hold. She does need to match that. She's doing nicely there, but she has fallen off at this point already in the competition, so just needs to trust that right foot. Press up towards top with 1 minute left.
Yeah, she's been looking super solid on this boulder, but there's something about this last move that's just been spitting her off, but I think she might have it now. There we go.
Great top from Alana. I believe that's her first top. We'll just wait for the scores to update. Currently leading the way with two is Alma Bestvater. Top the first and the last boulder. And another top. Well done, Lily. It's not Chloe Collier on women's one. Apologies for those graphics. That is Chloe. Sorry, Lily. It's not Chloe. Sorry,
very early, Charlie. Maybe we should get a coffee.
Very early in the morning. Yeah, the espresso machine is going to be the key today. We have got so much action for you coming up today. A packed schedule. After this women's bouldering semi-final and men's lead semi-final, we've got 5 p.m. the opening ceremony, then 5:30 p.m. Paris time. We'll be live. Men's boulder final. 7 p.m. we'll have the paraclimbing male B1 final. Then we'll have the podium for both those events. 9 p.m. we'll have the men's speed final. That'll be followed by the women's lead final, and then the podium ceremonies for those two.
So the next rotation we are on women's number one. We'll see Chloe Collier, world ranked 13th, Belgian climber, just 19 years old. Climbed with her recently at the Climbing Works International in Sheffield in the UK. Does really well there, makes a lot of finals so far. She had good results this year, 8th and a 6th, and has always done well in the European Youth Championships. So she's been around on the scene for quite a long time. Results, finals all the way back to 2013 in the youth. So she's no stranger to this stage and has generally done well on the bigger stage. So hopefully Chloe can make a good impression on the semi-finals. Yeah,
Chloe's a really impressive climber, I find. She sort of started off in lead in her earlier years in the youths, and she was always good, but I think she kind of hit a wall. And then made the switch to bouldering, and pretty quickly, I think semis straight away in the World Championships in Munich a couple of years ago, and now she's a consistent finalist and placing really high amongst the best of the women. Super impressive Belgian athlete.
Yeah, she was struggling with injury earlier this season. seems to be back to full fitness. She's a really good climber to watch. She's a real battler, a real fighter. Always enjoy watching Chloe. Glad to see her in the semi-final here.
Good progress here from the Russian athlete Elena as well on women's free, looking really comfortable in that position. We have seen a few climbers get to this point in the boulder, but we want to see someone get a little bit higher, so she's potentially looking pretty good here. She's got a good use of the knee, which we always like to see in those volumes, but it's really, really physical in there. And we see a great top there from Andrea Ebner on women's 4. So as we predicted earlier, women's 4 will get a lot of tops, so I think to make it through to the finals, you're going to have to get that one done and get it done quickly.
Yeah, I'd have thought so. I believe that's our third top of women's 4. Alma Bestvater, Alana Yip, and now Andrea Ebner. Yes, it is. Third top on that bowler. So, don't forget, if you've got any questions for our celebrity guest, Campbell Harrison, get yourself on Twitter, #IFSCWCH. We're going to have athletes across all 3 disciplines, as well as coaches, route setters, officials, all sorts joining us in the commentary box. Today we're starting off with Team Australia, and we've got our first question. Alexandra Bishop, she wants to know, have you managed to get any climbing done outdoors, and how does Australia compare? Presumably, how does Australia compare to Europe?
That's a very good question. Haven't been able to do quite as much outdoor climbing as I think we would have liked. You know, obviously following the circuit can be super draining and you have to focus on climbing on plastic routes, but we've been able to do a little bit of climbing in Font. Some of us went climbing in Arco in Austria, so little bits and pieces here and there. And I guess I found the most climbing I've done so far is in Font, and I'm used to climbing back home in the Grampians, where the boulders are very steep and powerful and big spans, and then I get to Font and all of a sudden it's like super technical and scary top outs. And so, yeah, adjusting to that style is really difficult, but it's super cool. Like, it's incredible climbing, and I can't wait to do more of it.
Yeah, Fontainebleau, of course, not far from here. A very special place. If you've never been bouldering there, you have to go. The circuits are possibly the highlight for me. I remember doing one of the circuits, I think it was at Lachon. I packed a rucksack with lunch, took a flask, really British day out. There's about 55 boulders, I think it was, that you make your way around. And I got about 35 in. I was so exhausted I couldn't carry on, and I'd managed to get completely lost in the forest. Ended up spending an hour wandering around by head torch trying to find where I'd left the car. But that is Fontainebleau, completely unique experience. It's not your normal bouldering experience, setting off on a 55 boulder circuit with a rucksack and your lunch in it. Brilliant place. Yeah,
even the idea of just having circuits is pretty foreign to me. You can go around and just try a whole different heap of boulders at a certain style or a certain grade, and it's a really good way of sort of exploring everything that the area has to offer.
So 20 seconds left here. Elena, can we see the top of women's 3? No, we're not going to this time. Last night in the men's bouldering semi-final, don't know if you caught it, but every boulder was topped, but no one topped all of them. Extremely tough round. Some of our athletes made it into the final with just 1 top. I think you're going to need at least 2 here in the women's as an early prediction. Alma Pestvaart at this stage, the only climber with 2, but very strong selection of climbers still to come.
You may have heard there, Charlie, the crowd's just come alive because our first French athlete has come onto the stage. The women's Marine Fevenet.
Yeah, we had Thomas Ioannis on the men's lead, but we are focusing primarily on the bouldering. So click on YouTube if you want to watch the men's lead semi-final instead, or at the same time if you've got 2 screens.
It's definitely one to watch too. I think it's potentially the most exciting men's lead semi-final I've seen so far. Some pretty cool campus moves through the middle, so yeah, if you can get down and watch that one, it's certainly worth it.
Yeah, it's a particularly powerful route. There's only about 1 foothold on the lower half of the route. That came from the mouth of the route set. It's not my observation. Really powerful, and I think we're about to see a top of women's 4. There it is, top. 4th top on women's 4.
And that looks like one I think you're going to have to do to make it through to finals for sure.
Yeah, almost certainly. We've had 4 tops on that already at this stage, so I think you're right. If you want to make the final, that's going to have to be a top.
see there, Marine Fevenet from France. Over a minute and a half burnt already on this boulder and still at the start, so not 100% sure how many attempts she's had, but it's not going to be that many just yet. She really wants to put on a show for the crowd here, but it's not quite happening for her just yet. See if she can make that happen.
Ils ont vu aussi Asia, une superbe grimpeuse qui est plutôt falaisiste, qui n'a pas eu la chance de passer, c'est qu'on apprendra à découvrir.
Effectivement, la Suède progresse quand même beaucoup. Ils sont toutes compétitions.
So, Marine Thivenet in front of a home crowd. Of course, a lot of the French climbers base in this part of the country. World-class training facilities. They really tailor their training towards IFSC competitions. They have a very World Cup style setting in their gym, and also they've got the reasonably good outdoor bouldering venue of Fontainebleau, which we've already mentioned this morning.
Yeah, we were just, me and some of the other Aussies were just down checking out the French training centre in Fontainebleau, and it's potentially one of the most amazing gyms I think I've ever seen. It's just this entire room of some pretty phenomenal angles, and the setters will just set exactly what they need to work on at any given time, and they have all the resources that they could ever need to sort of thrive in a World Cup setting. It's pretty phenomenal.
And when you're in their training facility, what are they doing differently apart from the set? Is it just the setting style? What is the facility like when you go in there? What's the overriding impression? Is it bigger? Is it more professional? For someone that's actually been in the hallowed turf of the French training centre, just describe what the whole centre's like.
Also, you walk in and there's a public area of the gym, which in itself is pretty impressive. Like, it's got everything that you'd need in order to become a strong competitor. But then they have their own little separate area, and at first, there aren't too many boulders. There couldn't be more than like 6 boulders up at one time. But they're set with World Cup style holds, World Cup style volumes, and they have full-time route setters working there, so they're constantly changing and being set to a standard that's of the World Cup qualification, semi-final and final. As far as is that necessarily why they're performing so well in the competitions, I don't know. I think hard work comes into it. Like, they're an exceptionally dedicated set of athletes, and their federation puts incredibly high standards on them. But I think if you've got the determination and the focus, having resources like that, it's definitely going to help.
Just interrupt there on women's free. Just as I say that, very close to a top there. Women's free from Lancaster from Norway. She's looking really, really solid on that. So I think we're going to see tops on that. I'm not going to stick my neck on the line as to who I think is going to top that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be somebody.
Don't let Mike forget his prediction, Anna Sturr. We won't be letting that go. I like a prediction. Yeah, if you are just tuning in, we're live with the women's boulder semi-final here in Paris. We've got an unbelievably action-packed weekend. The men's lead semi-final is going on simultaneously. We will be keeping you up to date sporadically with the results from that, but you can also watch it on YouTube separately if you would prefer to.
I think just going back to what you were saying there about the French team training venue, I think something like that, where they've got their own dedicated facility, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that for other nations. The FFME, the French Federation, has obviously invested a lot in their team, and they've got their own training facility now. Do you think you're going to start seeing that in other nations? Will they be able to start finding the funding to create their own training venues?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're already seeing it in with nations like Slovenia. They have their own gyms that are built specifically for their athletes and tailored towards their athletes. And yeah, I think with the addition of climbing in the Olympics, of course, there's going to be a lot more funding from governments and from commercial sponsors to be able to make these gyms to build athletes that are going to excel at a competitive level.
I think what's interesting is the climbing walls, climbing gyms these days are getting so busy. Athletes are going to start finding it hard to train in a commercial environment because there's just too many customers in the wall in general, so they won't be able to get on the facility. So if these guys want to train, I know where we work in London, the wall is just so busy. Athletes, they're put off to come to there. They're starting to create their own facilities in their garages and in their basements. they're using canvas boards outside in the garden just to stay strong. And I really do think, like you say, I think federations are going to have to start investing where they can find that cash from somewhere to be able to make specific training venues.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. The gyms, especially here in Europe, are incredibly busier, and they're only getting busier by the day. And so it's becoming important for athletes to have their own home training venues where they can train all the time as consistently and as hard as they want. But I don't think that in the long term that's going to be conducive to a strong team. And yeah, so I think if the national federations want to stay on top of the game in the World Cups, I think it's really important that they're creating these facilities that their teams can train together in an environment that's, you know, conducive to getting stronger for these sorts of competitions.
It's certainly an interesting point because you see it in the Olympics, and before we talk about the Olympics, we're about to see another top on women's 4. You are definitely going to need to top that. I'm pretty sure if you want to make this final, it's going to be an absolute bare minimum requirement is the top on women's 4. I was about to say, climbing obviously going to Tokyo 2020 as an Olympic sport, but we see it in the Olympics when sports get funding. Certainly as a fan of Team GB in the Olympics, you see it in the cycling. They pump money in, and we don't want to say that success is directly related to money, but when you get incredible facilities like Team GB got in the cycling, suddenly the next 2 Olympic cycles you go from no hopers to, I mean, pretty much dominating in the velodrome in the cycling in London and in Rio in the last 2 Olympics. And it'd be really interesting to see in climbing how the funding and how the Olympic movement changes things, because as you say, the French team has suddenly got this dedicated sense of training. All the athletes base there, a lot of the athletes base there, very competition style setting, and it's already paying dividends. It's going to be really interesting over the next 4 years as funding comes in and training facilities are built and improved on how that affects results.
I think that's going to be the main thing. When we talk about competition route setting, we're talking about quite clean walls with a lot of volumes, a lot of funky boulder problems, and the climbing walls, commercial climbing gyms can't really justify cleaning wall up for the competitors like that too regularly, because it affects the customers on a day-to-day basis. I know back in the UK, the British team tried to arrange team training sets wherever they can go just to get the style of boulders. Because we have a look at Hannah Bitbo on number 1 making good progress. Hannah's not made a semi-final so far this year, very close 21st position in Munich, so she is obviously becoming on form, but it's looking good on women's 1. Let's hope she can get this done. Really hard transition between those 2 green volumes and the feet, pretty slippery.
And latches it nicely, so I believe that's our 3rd top on women's 1. So at this early stage, possibly a top of that might be compulsory to make the final, you would suspect. That and women's 4, I think you're probably going to need to top them to make the final, but we shall see. There's Percy Bishton, IFSC route setter, just making a minor adjustment to clarify for the starters, and I think to keep that start sign just out of the way of the competitors as they move right. Let's have another look at that from a different angle. Our wall-mounted camera. It's quite impressive because as that foot goes out right, there's almost no friction on that volume. You've really got to stamp on it. You can't just tap it with your toe. And there's the top on women's 4. I think that is going to need to be compulsory if you want to make the final here.
Yeah, we had those big blue Dual-Tex volumes in the men's qualifications, and it was certainly interesting coming out to those, and you see this great big volume that you'd normally use as a foot or as a hand, and then all of a sudden you realize it hasn't got anything on it, and it really adds a new dimension to the climbing. You can be up on the wall, and all of a sudden your plan just has to totally change because you've been confronted with this obstacle you didn't foresee.
This is our first chance to have a look at Petra Klingler. You would have to say potential finalist.
Yeah, Petra's one of those really interesting athletes. She does lead bouldering and the ice climbing World Cup, so she's really an all-round talented climber, and watching her through qualification, really fired up for this, and seems to be having a really good time with the climbing as well, really enjoying herself, and that's great.
You can see this straight into women's 1, no messing about. Tricky move right now, so she's on that left-hand green volume. Somehow got to shift her body and her centre of gravity rightwards. That's how you do it if you've got the requisite power, and I think Petra Klingler, pretty sure that's a flash. We'll confirm when the scores come up. We didn't watch it from the very start of the round, but I'm pretty sure it's a flash from Petra Klingler. It's certainly a top, and she looks pretty happy with that, and she'll earn herself an extra 3 minutes rest back behind the wall. So women's 3, we are yet to see a top on this. Had a few climbers up to the bonus hole, but of course the bonus hole is relatively low down on the boulder. No one come really close to topping this. On first glance it looks a relatively simple boulder, not easy but relatively simple to read. It's actually more complicated than it looks, and it's incredibly powerful. We've had 5 climbers so far get the bonus on it, nobody's topped it.
It's going to be interesting this. We have got a few climbers now with two tops. I think 2 is really going to be on the cusp of whether you get through to finals or not. It's going to be 2 in very few attempts. Possibly 2 flashes might get you around 5th or 6th place. It's definitely a bit of a stab in the dark there with the predictions with so many strong climbers to come. But I think 2's going to be a minimum, definitely.
I wouldn't be surprised if you even need 3, to be honest. I think there's such a, when you get into the upper echelons of the women's field, there's such a disparity. And so, I mean, we haven't seen the middle 2 boulders get topped yet, but those girls are really strong. I wouldn't be surprised if they can do it. But yeah, I think 2 quickly or 3 will put you through.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, the difficulty that women's 3 is providing so far, I'd be surprised if we saw 4 tops. We shall see.
I would love to see 4 tops out here. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. The route setters put so much work into these boulders. They're here all night route setting, so they really want to see tops as well. And, yesterday's boulder semi-final for the men was really hard, but all the boulders did get done. So it proves it was possible, just only by the very select few.
Worth remembering, actually, we haven't looked at it for a while now, but women's 2 also not had a top, and according to our scores, which I think are pretty much bang up to date, nobody's even had a bonus hole on that. So here it is, women's 2, perfect timing. Thank you, Mr. Director. Yeah, we haven't seen this for a while, but we haven't even had a bonus on this. So women's 2 and women's 3 so far proving the crux. Women's 1 and women's 4 both had multiple tops even at this stage, but none on women's 2 and 3. So my prediction, not that I'm very good at them, is that you will need to top 1 and 4 and 1 other to make the final. I think you need 3 tops here, but we'll see. We'll see. Opinion divided.
We have a final look here at May from Norway on the 4th and final boulder for her. She's had a pretty good round, really. She's not had many great results this season, so to get this far in the competition so far, and she's really done herself proud here in the semi-final, so she should definitely go away head held high that she did well here in Paris. Just get at the top. Come on, yeah.
And Lily Kiesgen, she wasn't getting on with women's 3, not the only climber to struggle with that one. And the boulder cleaners have 7 seconds to get a bit of extra cleaning done. There's women's 2 right in the middle of your screen, the absolute point of that arête getting cleaned. This is a good view of Marine. Women's 2, as I say, we haven't even had a bonus on this boulder. It's so far proving extremely problematic. She's found that toe heel hook. Still wasn't enough. We're going to see.
The issue with that heel toe lock there is it's good, but it really is it's not going to help you make much upwards progression. As soon as you take that out, you're just going to, what we say, barn door off. You're just going to open up and you're going to be out of there. So it helps initially and it keeps them stable, which feels good in the beginning, but then after that, it's really not going to help.
So, if you're just getting up on this Saturday morning, it's 10 a.m. here in France. Where have you been? You missed an hour. It's all right, we'll forgive you. We are live in Paris. We've got the women's boulder semi-final going on. Simultaneously, we've got the men's lead semi-final. We're focusing very much on the women's bouldering. You can check out the men's lead semi-final on YouTube. There's a button there. Just click that. You can watch that. You can also watch the same coverage that we're watching with French commentary if you would prefer. So 3 options this morning. I've got Mike Langley, professional route setter, alongside me, and Australian IFSC athlete Campbell Harrison as well. And we are live in the massive Accor Arena, which is filling up very quickly. We've got an action-packed schedule today. If you want to interact with us, questions, predictions, thoughts, analysis, insight, get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. And we have a question from Stacey T on Twitter. She's got a question for Campbell. She says, how do you prepare for a comp in the last month or so before? Do you work on a variety of techniques or have a particular focus?
Well, so for me, I'm predominantly a lead climber. So I guess obviously I do have a focus of, climbing on hard routes, trying to on-site them, that sort of thing, working on my endurance, my resistance. But, it varies as the comps go by, because over the last months we have been, jet setting all around Europe, competing sometimes weekend after weekend. And so, usually after a competition, I'll take a bit of time to analyze exactly what went wrong, what went right, and then try to get on routes accordingly. If there's a specific technique or hold type that I'm struggling with, I'll probably hit the bouldering wall and where you can really focus on those small specific things, the technical differences. But otherwise, I think, just trying to get to as many different gyms as I can and trying to on-site hard routes.
So, first good look at Monica Retsch. She's had a really interesting season. Second in Mumbai, the highlights so far. I remember seeing her in Mumbai afterwards, interviewing her, and she just couldn't believe it. I mean, all the climbers are delighted with her second place in the World Cup, but Monica Retsch was exploding, couldn't believe she'd actually got second place in the World Cup. How she'd love to make the final here. Also made the final in Chongqing back at the end of April.
Monica's one of those climbers, she's very consistent throughout the competition. Like I say, Charlie's second in by 6 in Chongqing earlier this year. So, I think it seems to be with her, like, if she's feeling good on the day, she can be really strong. She's having a great look here at Chloe Collier, women's free, secures the left-hand yellow hold. It's one of the first climbers we've seen do that. It really doesn't get much easier after this, so the right hand of this volume is absolutely grim. And as you see, they didn't quite find the good bit on that. There isn't much of a good bit on that, to be fair, but the route setters do tell us there is something there that's worth holding on to.
So, Monica, this move right. So you get the left-hand volume, and then you've got to shift your body weight right. We saw Petra Klingler do it with a Gaston, and Monica going for the same beta, but not quite managing it. You can see Petra is absolutely a limit. She's a very powerful climber, and she really struggled with that move. Monica not getting on with it just yet. Certainly secured a bonus.
You can see Monica actually rubbing both of her shoulders there. When you read those two green volumes, some of them are what we call shouldering both those volumes. And if you can imagine trying to open some elevator doors when they're closed, that's how it feels in that move. We call it the elevator doors, basically showing opposing holds, and really, really hard on the shoulders. Maybe, it's really quite hard to warm up for those sorts of moves, especially in the isolation zone here in Paris, but looking a bit despondent at the moment.
Speaking of your warm-ups, we've got IFSC athlete Campbell Harrison alongside us this morning. When you're warming up for a boulder competition like this, as Mike's just alluded to, you're doing there's so many moves. There are, literally an infinite number of moves. You could do something that's very intensive on your fingers, you might need your hamstrings, you might need your shoulders. Just talk us through your warm-up. How long is the process and what does it involve?
Well, warming up can be different for everybody, I guess, and for me, I find warming up for bouldering a little bit more difficult, just because, like you said, there's an infinite range of movements that you might be required to do, like the elevator doors, as we were calling it before. Like, that's something that you might not even cross your mind, and in this case, I think we've got 2 of them in the set. And so I think it's just really important that you have a routine that goes through everything, warming up each muscle sort of bit by bit. Warming up your fingers is super important. And in terms of time, it's different for everybody again, but I like to take an hour to an hour and a half. Some of the athletes can climb for 2 or 3 hours before their round starts. Some only take 40 minutes, so it really is different for everybody.
This is our first look at one of the true superstars of the sport, Anna Stor. Mike reckons she's going to top out on women's 2, but for now she's got to get women's 1 done. And I think, look at the number of tops, had 4 already this boulder. I think she is going to need to top it to progress. Made a pretty good start so far.
To be honest, Charlie,
move right.
I'm getting a bit nervous about my prediction on women's too. I was quite confident earlier, but even Petra Klinger is an absolutely fantastic athlete, and she's struggling. So, yeah, we'll see about that one.
Anna Snow straight out, no problem whatsoever. That's a pretty confident start from Anna. We'd love to see her in the final, as I say, a true legend of the sport. To have her climbing in front of this enormous arena when it is packed to the rafters would be fantastic. But she's got a long way to go, but she's made the perfect start. I think we're about to see another top on women's 4.
I think women's 2 looks proper hard. I'm not even quite sure how it'll get done. It just looks insanely difficult. I think women's 3 will get some tops. People are getting pretty close to it now, but I don't think has 2 even gotten a bonus yet.
Not really. I don't think someone's been really close. Chloe Collier made a really good effort at it, but yeah, it's this transition up the volume. They've got to stick to the right hand side. I think confidence is going to be the key on this one. Really trusting the feet and just powering up before you have the opportunity to slip off. Kind of trying to race it. That's why I was predicting Anna Stork, because she's known for climbing quite quick. I was hoping that she might have the confidence to race up this section of volumes. But Petra Klinger's making pretty good work here. It's the first time I see someone get this high, and the crowd responds. There we go. Campbell, bonus secured. First time I've seen that. Oh, come on. Petra Klinger, come on. Looking really solid. She's got to make the transition round to the side now. It's looking good. Oh, man. Hopefully you can hear in the background there. The crowd comes alive here in Paris for Petra Klinger. Brilliant effort.
It certainly doesn't end once you get the bonus.
La zone, on rappelle, c'est la prise avec le scotch orange. Le volume est en sous-bloc. Et ça peut avoir beaucoup d'importance sur le classement de cette demi-finale. Elle n'a pas pris beaucoup de repos.
En tout cas, ça prouve qu'elle est dans la course. Alors quand on l'a déjà fait une fois, on peut le refaire assez rapidement, je crois, François Perrin. Mais très à falloir contester.
So Marine, take a look at this women's 3. No tops on this one so far. We've had 6 climbers get a bonus. But no tops, 50 seconds remaining. We've already seen Anna Sturr out in this round, albeit very briefly. Don't forget, hashtag IFSC WCH. It is our special hashtag for this 2016 World Championships. Before we ask our latest question, let's just have a look at Petra Klinger. No, again, not getting on with women's 2. We've got a question for our resident celebrity, Campbell Harrison, Mike Friesen. Mike wants to know, I've recently injured myself. What do you do while you're not climbing to stay encouraged and strong?
That's a really interesting question, and quite close to home for me. Like at the end of last year, I injured my finger and was out for, I think, 4 months before I could climb hard and consistently again. But I think it's really important to take a little bit of time off and sort of recenter, remember why you love climbing, and then build back into it slowly. Don't push it. It can be really tempting sometimes, but ultimately, if you're just postponing your recovery, it's not going to make you stronger in the long term. But, just making sure you're working on everything else while you can. So whilst I was injured, I tried to make sure I was doing lots of running and strength workouts and building up my weaknesses and antagonist muscles and all that sort of thing. And but I think it's really important to take a little bit of time before you really get back into the swing of things. Otherwise, it can just get really frustrating.
Especially as you see then, out on women's 1, Megan Mascarenas, just 18 years old, currently world ranked number 5. Megan's a climber who's really, really exciting. She's got a great future in front of her and has won World Cups this year. First place in Vale in her home country earlier, plus a 4th and a 3rd in 2016. So if someone's going to make finals, surely it's Megan Mascarenas. But the boulders are really kind of splitting the climbers here. It's going to be really interesting to see what these top climbers make of the tour. it's Anna Storr next on women's 2, which I'm particularly nervous about for some reason.
Yeah, of course, Mike Langley, professional route setter, should really know. I mean, Mike should be able to predict this pretty accurately, and he reckons she's going to top women's 2. So, Mike, really, you should be getting this right. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm just putting it out there. I've actually never climbed with her, and I've never actually spoke with her. But at least, I've seen her climb quite a lot on the TV, so I got confident. Petra Klinger made really good work of that problem too. We did see her get quite high, so someone's got to start making progress on women's 2. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Anna Storr.
If you ever want to hear the audio version of someone walking away slowly, that's Mike backing away from that Anna Storr prediction. Sorry, we're giving her such a hard time. Megan Mascarena's perfect start to her World Championship semi-final. No problem at all for her, so it's been interesting, this women's 1. I'm certain you're going to need that and number 4 and one other to get through. I don't think 2 is going to be enough. Don't currently have any climbers with more than 2, but when you look at who's to come and how Anna Storr and Megan Mascarenas have cruised this women's 1, I think you're going to need 3 personally, but 2 might just get you in, as long as you don't use too many attempts. We shall see. Long way to go in this semi-final. Just to give you an idea, calibre of who is still to come. Clementine Kayser, she's out next. Onto women's 1 when this 2 minutes and 15 seconds is up. Melissa Leneve, she will be out after that. Sasha Geo will be out, followed by Katja Zauerwein, Kia Noguchi, and then Miho Nanaka, of course. Reigning Boulder World Cup champion Shauna Coxey, injured for this event. She injured her shoulder in Munich in 2016, our lost World Cup.
I think that's what I really love about these semi-finals. They do come out in reverse order, so in theory it does get more and more exciting, more and more tops as we go through. So we should start seeing the action really heat up in the Accor Arena here in Paris. The crowd is really building. There's actually like 3 sets of seating here all the way up to the rafters, and that's really filling up. So thousands of people already here this morning for the semi-finals. Just have a great look here at Chloe Collier on women's number 4 on the slab. I've seen lots of attempts on this and lots of tops, but you can still see from the strain on the face there, it's not an easy boulder. But as we have said time and time again, that looks like the one to get done.
It's amazing how quick these boulder semi-finals go by. It seems like Chloe Collier has only just started, but already on her way. Only 1 top for her. That top we've just witnessed was her only one, so she won't be making the final. Let's have a look how Hannah Mitbo gets on. Women's 3, still no tops on that. So 2 of our boulders are waiting their first tops, but I've just read out the list of climbers who are still to come. Plenty of horsepower backstage ready to be unleashed on these boulders.
That's right, Joe. It's some seriously heavy hitters just about to grace us with their presence on the stage.
Hannah, no, not getting on with that. So she's not the only climber to feel that way. Monica Recci, we've just seen her shake of the head. And I'm just watching Monica Recci. She's not on screen just now. She's taking a scorecard and she's heading in. She's got 30 seconds left, but she doesn't feel she can do women's 2, saving her energy. Hannah Mitbo, you can see her there doing the same thing. Going down to the judges, just waiting to be handed her scorecard. And she walks very slowly off the stage, taking a good long look at that women's 3, just wondering if there's any more she could have done. Time's up. It'll get a good clean, ready for its next victim. And then we see an updated score. So, Elena Krasovskaya, excuse me, bit of a mouthful at 10 o'clock in the morning, currently leads the way.
Here we go then, it's the one and only Anna Storr out on boulder number 2. I could be swiftly out of here if this doesn't go very well.
It's all right, Mike. You're here for your commentary skills. Prediction is not my strong point either.
If she does cruise up this, I'm heading down to the shop to get a lottery ticket.
Yeah, Anna Storr made extremely light work of women's 1. She's just off screen, just off to the left. She'll be climbing women's 2. You can see it there with the 2 big blue triangular volumes. That's what she'll be attempting. Her elbow just made an appearance. There she is. Thank you, Anna. She doesn't have an earpiece, but with perfect timing, makes her way into the shot and straight out again. So Clementine, she's out on women's 1. This is a boulder that you're going to need to top. I'm pretty sure of that. It's had 6 tops already. Anna Storr, Megan Mascarenas, and Elena Krasovskaya, they all flashed it. So you're going to need to top it Ideally flash it, so Clementine won't get the flash.
Here we go then, Anna Storr on women's number 2, known for her confident, fast climbing ability. Having a bit of a battle so far on this one, really skittering with the feet. Really
but I have to say, in support of your prediction, Mike, she's already made good progress on that boulder quicker than anyone else did, and looking relatively comfortable. Until she tried to get that right foot up, she looked relatively comfortable. It's a desperate move though. I'll tell you on women's 3, there it is, perfect timing. Petra Klingler.
This is the highest we've seen any athlete get on this. Come on, Petra. Come on. Oh.
Petra Klingler, who also flashed women's 1. That is by far comfortably the best attempt we've seen on women's 2. If she can get that, that is going to put her in an incredibly strong position for a slot in the final.
Yeah, she looks like to be the on-form athlete out there at the moment. She did really well on number 1, got the high point on women's 2 with the bonus, and she's looking really good on women's 3, so hopefully she can finish off women's 3. Just as we have another look then, French climber Clementine Kaiser on number 1, Anna Storr currently getting a little bit better progress on women's 2.
Yeah, I think it's just whenever she tries to move over to the left and bring that right foot up, that's what's causing the problems. But Mike's prediction of a top not quite coming through just yet, but Anna Storr certainly looking the strongest on that boulder so far. Mike, I'm going to give you that as a prediction because she's looking streets ahead of anyone else at this stage. Hasn't yet got the bonus. That's just how hard that boulder is. But Anna Storr certainly looking the most comfortable. As yet, not got that move over to the left where you bring the right foot up.
I think it's interesting. The choice of shoe that the athlete's going to wear is going to be quite important on women's number 2. It's all about getting as much rubber down as possible. Anna's actually wearing a really downturned shoe. I don't think that's helping her at the moment. She's struggling to get the maximum amount of rubber on the front of her foot through the volume. So she is down at the front of the mat, rubbing her shoes quite a lot, trying to get them clean. The mats here do pick up quite a lot of dust and chalk, so you will find that when they pull on, they're trying to get the chalk off the bottom of their shoes, and it's so important, the contact in the shoe and the footwear choice.
We're really getting into the business end of this rotation now, because Petra Klingler, we see there, she's on women's 3 and made a really good attempt on it last time, and Anna Storr getting closer than we've seen to the bonus, let alone the top on women's 2. Petra Klingler giving this women's 3 absolutely everything. She's touched the top hold.
Yeah, she's really on board this problem. She's a real fighter, and this is going to be a really 3D problem, which she'll be used to in the other disciplines, especially the ice. So close to this top hold now. Come on, Petra, get it.
Come on, Petra. You can see every muscle of her body being used from the hamstrings up. No, that's a heartbreaker for Petra Klingler. She's normally smiling. Is she still smiling? She is. We just caught a glimpse of her there in the lights. Clementine, she's going to need this if she wants to place in the final, and she's got it. Has she? Just steady herself. We saw her compatriot Manuel Cornu in Munich make that mistake. Clementine, I think you could say, fairly happy with that one.
The level of emotion in the athletes' faces now is really hotting up. The crowd's come alive and they're really getting into the meat of this semi-final, and it means so much for these people when they get a top.
And I'm sure the athletes are figuring out that you're not going to need that many tops. I don't think you're certainly not going to need a clean sweep of 4 tops to make it into the final. So, just timed out there, unfortunately, Marine. So I think the climbers know that there aren't going to be a huge amounts of tops, so every top is vitally important, and Clementine celebrating as well she should. Let's have a look at Petra Klingler. There's a good angle here from our wall-mounted camera. You can see how hard she's battling. We'll see in a second. Hopefully we'll stay with it. You've got that press, pull, hamstring, just about everything involved. And out onto the stage, Melissa Leneve. She'll get a warm reception, and she does. And she would certainly be, you would feel, one of the favourites for a final slot. And Campbell, when you're watching this and been competing in the IFSC World Cups this year, how does it make you feel when you think about potentially being in this environment here in Paris? How strong a motivator is this?
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, seeing an event like this in a stadium like this is pretty phenomenal.
Just keep an eye on the top of your screen for the results as they come across the top of the screen. You can see our early leaders. So, Cameron, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, definitely. It definitely makes me want to go home and work harder, and you know, seeing these guys in the semi-finals and the ability that they've got to climb these hard boulders is pretty exceptional. Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa there. So she hasn't flashed women's one. Seen quite a few flashes already. I'm just looking at the results. 4 flashes, I think. So Melissa already used at 1 attempt. But yeah, when you go back, presumably you go back to Australia in the off-season, what do you do? What is your plan to come back next year and potentially be here on the biggest stage?
Yeah, definitely. Coming into this season, I really wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to be doing next year. It was a bit of a test to see if the World Cup circuit was for me. And even though my results probably weren't exactly what I expected, I'm still really excited to come back next year with all this new knowledge and all this new training I've got, and give it the best shot that I can, yeah.
Some big cheers going on there. We've got Gutti Zuppa out on the men's lead route. So we are covering the men's lead route as well. We're focusing on the bouldering, but you can get yourself on YouTube. There's a button there if you wish to watch the men's lead semi-final instead of the women's bouldering. And you can also watch the coverage that we've got with French commentary. Just to bring you up. Sorry, go ahead. Cameron, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's really interesting watching the French athletes you know, climbing in their home country. I know that the Federation puts a lot of pressure on their athletes. The standards for them to compete here are exceptionally high. And I think we've definitely seen some of them, like some of the men yesterday, thrive on the home pressure. But it looks like maybe Melissa's having a little bit of trouble dealing with it, potentially.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we would certainly expect Melissa to be a finalist. But as Campbell just mentioned, 3 French men into the men's bouldering final. Manuel Cornu, Michael Mawem and Jeremy Bondet. They crushed the semi-final yesterday, particularly Manu. He topped the round. 3 tops on the boulders to qualify first for the final. So yeah, France not quite guaranteed a medal. They could of course come 4th, 5th and 6th, but yeah, 3 French men out of 6 men in this evening's boulder final. In this packed Acor Arena, it's going to be something else. But just to bring you up to date with what's going on in the men's lead, we haven't checked in with that for a while. Francesco Vetterata currently leads the way, shares the lead in fact with Loic Timmermans, 35 plus. Hannes Puman of Sweden currently sitting in 3rd place. Extremely strong list of climbers still to come though. Gutti Zuppa is out now. Just to give you an idea of who's still to climb, we've got Stefano Gisolfi, we've got Urban Primozic. This is an edited highlights, by the way, not a complete start list. We've got Domen Skufic, we've got Kachiro Koronaga, Sebastian Halenka, Adam Ondra, the unmistakable Adam Ondra, Ramon Juliet, Ramone, Sean McCall, Roman de Grange and Jakob Schubert still to come, so a lot of horsepower still to climb on the men's semi-final route. Gutti Zuppa is currently on there now. He's a man you'd expect to see in the final, particularly in front of this home crowd. And Melissa Leneve not getting on with women's 1 and not topping it. And I have to say, I think that could come back to haunt her. That's already been topped by 6 climbers. Women's 4's already been topped by 8 climbers. So
she's definitely going to have to make up for it on one of the other boulders, I think. But that said, I think she's got a reasonable chance of topping the 3rd boulder. But yeah, for sure, she's got to do the last one and at least one other.
It's certainly made life hard for Melissa early on. I mean, I was predicting to watch a replay of Monica Recchi. She's not currently on that. These aren't live pictures. Watch a replay. See how hard she was battling. The shoulder stability required on that women's 3. Absolutely brutal. But I was going to say, I was predicting you'd need 3 tops to make it into the final. But having seen the legend that is Anna Stöhr struggling so much on women's 2, I'm beginning to revise that opinion. I wonder if 2 might be enough when it comes down to attempts. We shall see. Long way to go. But I'm pretty sure 3 will guarantee you a final place. But 2 could well be enough. I don't know if these women's 2 and 3 are going to see a lot, if any, tops. We shall see. Here's Stasha. In the meantime, she was in the commentary box in Arco. did a fantastic job. We're going to be getting her back. We will be speaking to her. She'll be sitting in the hot seat at some stage over the weekend. In the meantime, we've got Australian athlete Campbell Harrison. Don't forget, get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH, our Special World Championships hashtag. If you've got any questions for Campbell or any observations about our coverage or the action you're watching today. Stasha, I have to say, climbed superbly in the qualifiers. And, I think she will be in the final. There's a prediction from me. Are we about to see the first top of women's 3? No. Anna Sturr, hand on the top hold. That's what we saw from Petra Klingler. If you can hear a cheer from the crowd, it's because Gussie Supper is powering up this men's semi-final route. Keep an eye on the live scores on the IFSC website or the app. But Goussier putting in a very strong performance. You can hear the crowd cheering, that's why. We've also got Clemency now in the women's bouldering, so plenty for the French crowd to go crazy about, and they're doing their job perfectly so far. So let's have a look at Stasha.
I definitely agree with your call that Stasha will be in the finals. I think she's an athlete that's sort of popped up in the last 2 years, or last year or so. And it's just looking phenomenally strong, like especially considering she's the only athlete from Serbia. Like it starts to make you think, well, you know, maybe it doesn't come down to the money or the support you get from your federation. You know, there are some athletes that can just do it regardless. It's what they're destined to be, I think.
Of course, she lives and trains in Serbia now, Stasha.
I think she's living and training in Slovenia at the moment.
Sorry, Slovenia,
yeah.
I'm getting my S's mixed up. Yeah, I mean Slovenia. Khabib's for Serbia, lives in Slovenia. Thank you, well done, Cam.
She's an interesting one, though. I find she often struggles to flash the boulders. And her first couple attempts look like she's not going to do it, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's done. And it's easy for her, and she'll, dance through the boulder.
Yeah, she's not currently getting on with the women's one. Still got 1:45 on the clock, so if that is the case, she's not always that good at flashing, but gets them done. Still got plenty of time. We watch Anna Sturr here. Be great to see a top of women's 3. We've seen a top of women's 3. So women's 2 remains the only boulder as yet unconquered by any athlete. And Anna Sturr should be pretty happy with that. Wonder if she knows the first top women's 3.
I think the way the crowd come alive there, she'll get a good idea that that's going to put her into a really good spot for the finals. It's really interesting what's happening here with women's 1. Melissa Lenev, now Stasha, struggling on women's 1, having seen tops on that so far. You do wonder if the nerves are getting to some of these athletes coming out later on in the competition. But Anna Sturr showing her experience there. She's really struggled on number 2, but getting it done and having to try really hard on women's 3, but it means a lot to her, and we really want to see her in the finals. She's a great character and brilliant ambassador of bouldering.
So let's have a look at Stasha. I think she will take one of the slots in the final, but if she's going to make my prediction correct, she's going to need to nail this women's 1, and as yet, she's not getting on with it. You can see how hard she's battling. Looks a lot more in control this time. Now she's got to get that move right, sorted. She gets it now. One hand on the top hold, just needs to get that heel hook nice and solid. Going to use it as a toe hook, gets it done. Campbell Harrison, that's why we have our experts in the commentary box, predicted that one absolutely perfectly. Doesn't always manage to flash some Stasha, but then suddenly makes it look easy, and that's exactly what happened there on women's 1. She really seemed to be struggling with it, and then suddenly got that gas on the elevator opening move. Once she had that, never really looked in doubt. Bang, right hand. You can see the effort on her face. From that angle, maybe it was a bit in doubt. Certainly from behind, she didn't look like she was struggling, but when we saw the look on her face, you can see how tough it still was. Quick celebration, she'll disappear back in. So, here is Katja Zalvine, had a really good qualifying round. Remember, of course, the athletes come out in reverse order, so if you're in first place from the qualifying round, you climb last in the semi-final. So, in theory, the strongest climbers come out last. Doesn't usually work out like that in practice, as we saw yesterday. Yanae Crude and Sean McCall coming out first and second in the men's bouldering semi-final, but theoretically we should have the strongest climbers out last. And now we've got Katja Zalvine on women's 1, we've got Melissa Neve on women's 2, Megan Mascarenas on 3, and Monica Recchi on 4. So that is what the stage currently looks like. Meanwhile, Stefano Ghisolfi is in action on the men's lead semi-final. So 5 climbers out in front of this huge arena here in Paris.
Just having a quick look at the scores here, Charlie. Currently, Elena from Russia is sitting at the top spot with 2 tops in 3 attempts, but I do reckon that will get surpassed. Anna Storr in 2 and 3, having only attempted 3 out of the 4 boulders, so she's sitting pretty currently in 2nd position. I think these guys out on the stage at the moment, these are the ones who are going to make an impression on the scoreboard for finals. It's going to be really interesting to see. It does look like another low-scoring semi-final round. The route set is really testing the climbers, making sure that they get the split ready for finals. This is the World Championships, so they do need to guarantee the result ready for the finals. I was just going to say that does mean a very, very hard round for the climbers.
Let's have a look at Melissa Neve here, because the theoretically easiest way of doing this women's 2 is to only turn and face the other way once you've got the bonus hole being the next volume above where Melissa was. But she turned quite early and seemed to have quite a lot of joy with it. I wonder if we're about to see a top of that. We haven't yet seen one. I was just going off what Mike was saying about yesterday in the men. Manuel Cornu was the only man to top 3 of our boulders, and 2 was enough. 2 tops was enough to get you into 4th place. Adam Ondra, Jeremy Bondet, Mikael Marwem, they all had 2 tops, and then 1 top for Takuru Hori and Tomoa Narasaki saw them into the final. So 1 top was enough in the men's bouldering. It won't be here for the women. It won't be enough here for the women. Pretty sure you're going to need 2. Although, having said that, Berit Schweiger, she's currently sitting in 6th with 1 top. But I think once we've had our full rotation of climbers, you will need 2 tops. But in the men's, yeah, 5th and 6th place were taken by Japanese climbers who only had 1 top in the semi. So incredibly hard round in the men's, and a marginally easier, you might say, for the women, but still a very tough round for this stage of the competition.
Yeah, especially for Melissa Leneve, really is going to have to pull something out of the bag here. She's just off camera at the moment on the right as we look at Monica Recci on women's number 4. But a lot of climbers, these top athletes, are standing on the floor still, under the boulders. There's a lot of head shaking going on. Katarina Zawine there on women's number 1. She's going to, we do feel that you're really going to have to get these earlier problems done to make a good impression, but it's really interesting. We're seeing quite a lot of climbers struggling in the later stages of the competition on these problems. I don't think the conditions are changing here too much, so I can't really say that as a factor. There must be something else going on. Maybe the time in the isolation is affecting the mindset. The sport psychology is so important in these competitions. But Kata shows her experience, and 4 minutes into her round on problem number 1, she gets it done.
So Megan Mascarenas attempting women's 3, which has now seen a top after Anna Storr.
When I was predicting Anna Storr to get up number 2, obviously I meant number 3.
You obviously just mispronounced it.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
So Megan, of course, this is her first international competition since winning in Vale back in June in front of a home crowd. I have to say, it wouldn't be the world's greatest shock if she was to win here in Paris, but she's going to need at least 1 more top, and I think a top on women's 3 would almost certainly see her into the final. Now this is great for Melissa Leneve. This, by far the best attempt we've seen so far. Previously it was Anna Storr.
She really needs this as well, Charlie. She's really got to make an impression on this boulder to get through to the finals. She's fighting so hard.
Melissa, it looked like she was going to fall off 3 or 4 moves earlier than that. There was about 10 seconds where Melissa looked as if she was permanently falling off, but somehow still seemed to be on the boulder. So women's 2 remains as yet unconquered.
I think the fatigue was showing there. You can see how much your legs were shaking. You're going to struggle to smear on the volumes when your legs are shaking that much. Getting the contact through your feet is going to be so difficult.
So let's have a look at Katja. Slightly different method of topping out there. Both feet out to the left on those 2 volumes. All the other climbers have had 1 foot underneath them as they top out. Megan not getting on with number 3. We'll have a look where that leaves Megan as our scores update. Let's have a look. You can see Melissa there, his feet shaking away. Quite how she managed to stay on, I don't know.
Out on number 1 then, very, very talented climber. It's Akio Noguchi. She's won so many competitions, currently world ranked number 3. Had great results this year in the Asian competitions, lots of victories. 3rd in Nave Mumbai in the IFSC Bouldering World Cups this year, 2nd in Chongqing, 4th in Meiringen. So she's been having a great season so far.
Yeah, Kia's definitely going to be one of my favourite climbers to watch. I think everything she executes is just so technically perfect. And I think in previous years she perhaps wasn't the strongest of the boulderers, but she's really worked on that, and now she's kind of the perfect mix of technique and power, I think. She just makes everything look just so easy.
Well, absolutely, and you can see that there. She's walking off the stage already, having done boulder number 1 without even breaking a sweat, and so she's obviously on form. As we have a look at the French athlete here, Clémentine Kaiser, she commences her battle on women's number 3. Let's see what she can do. Stasi Geijo on number 2. Fully on board the struggle bus, as we say, with women's number 2. Really not enjoying their time out there. On the Brett laying backing on these volumes, it's something that the climbers just really don't seem to kind of engage with at all so far here in the semi-final.
No, I'd be interested to see how someone manages to finish off the second boulder. It just looks beyond crazy to me.
I would like to see Jackie Godoff, one of the route setters, up there.
Yeah, I think so.
We can get a demo later.
I always wonder to what extent they've completed the boulders before they put them up. Are they just like, oh yeah, this will do? I'm sure it'll get done. These guys are strong.
Well, as far as I'm aware, the route setters were here until the very early hours this morning. They had to do a reset after the men's semi-final bouldering, so it's a really, really tough job for the route setters out here. And it's on the biggest stage. It's the most pressure there will probably ever be as a route setter, and so it's a really, really hard gig.
No, definitely. I think it's really, really difficult for the route setters to make sure, like, as you can see yesterday, all the boulders in the men's were incredible and they all got topped, but, you know, one top was enough to put you through to the finals, which, you know, is indicative of a pretty exceptionally difficult set.
Absolutely, we can see Anna Storr has gone into first position with 3 tops in 4 attempts, followed by Petra Klinger with 2 tops in 2 attempts. The Russian athlete who came out first, or very close to first, I mean, 4th she came out, Elena, the Russian, like I said, 2 tops in 3 attempts, currently sitting in 3rd place. I kind of feel like that she's going to drop down the order a little bit later on when these athletes who are currently out start making an impact on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I think so. I think she'll be close, but I think I might have been just a little bit off the money on my call on 3 tops. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that 2 will get you through. I just think it might be, you know, 2 in 2 or 2 in 3. So Elena might be lucky in getting through. I guess we'll see how we progress.
Yeah, Cameron, we've only got a minute left on this round. We will interrupt if there's anyone topping any boulders, but we're here in this massive arena. We've got the speed wall, we've got the bouldering, and we've got the lead wall, all 3 disciplines. Obviously in 4 years, sport climbing is going to the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo. Tell us how you felt when you heard about that and how that's going to affect you. Is it something you're thinking about, or is that just too far in the future? What's your plans for the next 4 years?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I was incredibly excited that climbing got accepted into the Olympics. I thought it was bound to happen. I just never knew that it would happen in my lifetime. And then the combined format definitely is a little different to what I expected as well, but I think it is what needs to be done going forward. You know, we've got to be able to showcase all of climbing. We can't exclude one discipline because it's different or unfamiliar to certain athletes, but I know for me the addition of speed climbing is really tricky. Not much of a speed climber. We don't even really have a wall back in Australia, so that's going to take a lot of work if I do plan on going to the Olympics. However, for me, at this stage in my career, I think I get the most benefit out of specialising. And I think I'm going to choose to specialise in lead climbing, and for now I think I need to focus all my energy in becoming the best lead climber I can be, but 4 years is a lot of time, who knows. Maybe I'll get to a standard where I really feel confident that I can branch out into the other disciplines and become a better, more well-rounded athlete.
Yeah, of course. Fantastic news. A month or so ago, sport climbing was accepted. Tokyo 2020, we're going to the Olympics. Now, the exact details of that have not been decided. There's going to be a big meeting, I believe it's in March, along with the IOC, with our governing body, the IFSC, of course. But we do know that it will be all 3 disciplines, so speed, lead and boulder. There'll be 20 male athletes and 20 female athletes, and they'll be competing for 1 gold medal, so it will be a combined ranking. The details of how that's weighted, so the percentage awarded to each discipline, how many days it will cover, exactly what the format will be, yet to be decided, but it'll be 20 men, 20 women competing for 1 combined gold medal. And this is our first look at Miho Nanaka, 2nd place overall in the Bouldering World Cups 2016. 2nd, of course, to Shauna Coxey, who's unfortunately not taking part in Paris, having injured her shoulder. Miho making a pretty good start. She would, with her main rival from 2016, Shauna Coxey, absent, she will be very optimistic of doing well here in Paris. So here's Melissa Leneve. Now, she's a climber we would definitely expect to see in the final here, but did not get on with women's 1. And we're pretty sure that to progress to the final, you're going to need at least 2 tops. So Melissa, without a top yet in this semi-final, is going to need to pull something very special out of the bag if she's going to make the final. She's really backed herself into a corner by struggling with women's 1.
Melissa's an exceptional climber to watch as well. I think sometimes it's almost like she gets through the boulders just sheer determination and strength of her will. She'll shake her whole way up, and like you were saying before, she'll look like she's going to fall off on every move, and then it's done, and no one knows exactly how she did it. But she does it again and again and again and again. And so whatever it is that she's doing, it's working.
Now this is Katja. Oh, I was about to say Katja Zaumann looking really controlled in women's 2, but the problem is those footholds are so tenuous, so slow, and that's a really good angle of them. You can see them just in front of Melissa's face. That is the top of the volume that the female climbers are trying to mantle up on women's 2, trying to get their feet onto. Katja looked in complete control, but there's just the tiniest shift of your body weight and you instantly fall off. So Melissa needs top, and it will come down to attempts if she's going to stand any chance of making this final.
Look at her, she's just like, you don't see almost any athletes fight as hard as Melissa does on the circuit.
We've got Mike busy with the mathematics of what needs to be done to make the final. Melissa won't be worried about that right now. For now, she's got an all-body battle with this women's 3. I'm pretty sure the final is out of reach from Melissa, but we shall see. Mike, you've been doing the maths. What have you got for us?
Well, it's getting really close. Melissa Leneve is definitely going to need 2 tops to get through. But we've got currently sitting Anna Storr first, Petra, Megan. And after that, I believe, it's all still to play for, but Akio, Stasha, Kaiser and Nanaka still can make an impression on this. So we might lose some of those people currently sitting in the final spots if Boulder 4 is kind of gets climbed as it has been doing so far. So it is really, really tight.
So here's Katja Zaumann still. We haven't had a top on women's 2. It's nice when you see all the boulders top. You see that they can all be done.
Melissa just getting the crowd going there. She really wants this, and she probably knows she needs to start making some serious attempts on this problem, but she has only got 24 seconds left, so you really feel like it might be too much for Melissa Leneve today.
Yeah, just Melissa still smiling. She won't be in the final. I'm pretty sure she burned through too many attempts anyway on that women's 3, but she definitely won't be in the final. It's going to be an absolute minimum requirement of 2 tops. I am revising my opinion that you need 3. I think you're going to need 2 in not many attempts, but a long way to go. Just to keep you up to date with the scores, Melissa, she won't be in the final. We can see a replay over there. Certainly never accuse her of not giving 100%, but not her day today. Didn't quite get on with the boulders. She's still got to climb women's 4. I think she'll probably top that, but it won't be enough. So just to keep you updated, Anna Storr, she is in first place as things stand. She's finished here. She'll just sit backstage, pretty happy in the knowledge that she'll have done enough to make the final. She climbed 3 boulders in 4 attempts. Petra Klinger, she climbed 2 boulders and both of them were flashes. Ditto Megan Mascarena, she trails Petra due to bonuses. Elena Krasovskaya. She is in 4th place. She climbed 2 boulders, 3 attempts. Lily Kiesgen of Germany, 2 boulders, 5 attempts. And Alma Bestvater, 2 boulders, 6 attempts. They are your current top 6.
Yeah, 2 tops in 3 attempts might just be enough to get you through, but you're really on the danger spot right there with 2 tops in 3. With Akio, Stasha, Clementine Kaiser and Nanaka. So Clementine's actually out on the moment on women's number 4. She has 1 top in 3 attempts so far, so if she does this as a flash, that would be 2 in 4, which would get her in just. She really needs to get this done quite quickly. Akio Noguchi, oh, here we go with Clementine on number 4. Do believe this is her first attempt. It'd be great to have a fresh French athlete in the women's bouldering final.
Ellie Clem. You can see it's seen a lot of tops this women's 4. Let me just count. 10, 11 tops, I believe 12 tops, yeah. So majority of climbers topping women's 4.
She has just fallen off there, so if she does it on the next go, I do believe that will be 2 in 5, which would put her right on the cusp of 5th, 6th position. With quite a lot of strong climbers to come, so there is a danger that the French athlete won't make the final in the women's bouldering, which will be a real turn up for the books.
They do make up 50% of the men's boulder final. Now, let's have a look at Sasha Giho. This would only be the 2nd top of women's 3, and she's looking good so far, but this last move is no gimme. Petra Klingler attempted it but didn't make it stick.
Different beta there, that was incredible. She just stood up into that last hole like it was a jug.
Stasha does make it stick, great to see. So Stasha, you'd have to say, she's probably going to top women's 4, you would imagine. We've had more than half our climbers doing so. So Stasha looking pretty good for a spot in the final at this stage.
It's still going to be really nerve-wracking for the climbers because the women's 4 is obviously a hard slab, and they're, some of them are going to get an idea that they're going to need to do 4. They might have heard from some of the the crowd response that 4 is going to be one of the ones they're going to need to do, and to come out and have to climb a slab as one of your hardest problems to get into a World Championships finals is no easy task.
Yeah, it's a good point you make actually. She will need to top women's 4 to make it certain, and walking out in front of this crowd.
There we go, Clementine Kaiser. She's done everything she can at this stage. That may just be enough to get in, but it's going to be really touch and go for her.
Yeah, we watched other climbers at the time, so we didn't get her attempts. Yeah, currently scores are updated very quickly. Clementine currently sits in 6th place. So very, very tight this women's semi, trying to keep track of how many attempts people are taking on each boulder. More or less impossible, so we'll keep a very close eye on the updated scores as they come through. I can give you an updated potential very early semi-final top 6. Anna Sturr leads the way, 3 tops. Petra Klingler, 2nd place. Megan Mascarenas in 3rd, Elena Krasovskaya in 4th, Sasha Geho in 5th, and Clementine Kaiser in 6th. So that is the early top 6. So already a few names that we know we won't be seeing in the final. Of course, Shauna Coxey injured for this event. Melissa Lenev, you would have expected to see higher up the order. She won't be there.
Yeah, it's going to be close with Clementine Kaiser. We've got Akio Noguchi out on 2 at the moment and shaking her head and walking off stage, but she has got 2 boulders left. She has currently got 1 top in 1, so she's in a good position to take the final spot, which would unfortunately knock out 6th place, currently sitting there, Clementine Kaiser. That would mean no French into the final.
With perfect timing, there's our director getting the spot of Clementine topping 4. I think she's pretty happy with that. Delighted with her top of women's 1. She didn't top another boulder until then, women's 4. We see Akio Noguchi at women's 2, so far proving beyond anyone. And we're already on Miho Nanaka. She's our last climber to attempt women's 2, so if it's going to see a top, now is the time.
Katarina Sarwine out on women's 3 as well has also got the potential to make finals, so it's going to get really close at the top. Kata topped the first problem in 3 attempts, so attempts might become important, and she did burn a couple on the first boulder.
Yeah, Anna Sturr still the only climber with 3 tops. She'll be pretty happy with her day's work. So Melissa Leneve, you see her there on the left. She won't be taking part in the final, but I'm sure she'd love to get a top in front of this large and ever-growing French crowd. Catch was Alvine. Just having a look at women's 3, her compatriot and regular training partner Anna Sturr has topped it. In the background you might be able to hear our local MC in the venue, Chris, who also was the MC in Chamonix-Villars-Briançon. He's just geeing the crowd up because we've just seen Dum and Scuffich on the men's lead semi-final. That is going on simultaneously. If you go onto YouTube, you can choose to watch that instead of the women's bouldering. And don't forget, if you've got any questions for IFSC athlete Camel Harrison, or any observations, analysis or predictions on what you've seen today, get yourself on Twitter, hashtag IFSCWCH. It's our World Championship and Para World Climbing World Championship hashtag.
Just having a look at the scores here, Charlie, there is potentially 4 athletes who could get free tops. So 3 tops will get you into the top 4 spot. After that, it's 2 tops in not many attempts. So it's getting really close here with Akio and Miho. Stasha still to come out. Katerina Sarwine can obviously make an impression on the finals list as well. Currently out on women's number 3 with 1 top, as I said earlier, in 3 attempts under her belt.
Yeah, so there we see. No one on women's 1. Women's 1 is now finished. We won't see any more climbers on that. Miho Naka is the last climber out on women's 2.
It's really great, these last stages of the semi-finals, when it starts to get really tight on the scores. The pressure starts to build, and get really nervous as who's going to make the World Championship final. It's a really good moment in the sport, and that's why the way that they run the competition, sort of 20th down to first place in reverse order, really adds to the day and makes it really exciting.
Does make the arithmetic hard, but that's okay. It's good for us. Just should have listened harder in school, but never mind. Je ne regrette rien, as they say in this part of the world. So let's have a look at Melissa. Got the top hold. But nope, no top for her.
It's really not Melissa's day. It's a real shame.
I was going to say, you need to get both hands on the top hold in control, so just slapping the top hold isn't good enough. So Melissa, she's touched the top hold. Can she convert that into a top of the boulder? Katja Zalvine battling up these blue blobs in the middle of women's 3. After Katja, we've still got Akio Noguchi and Miho Naka to attempt women's 3. And
I do think Katja really needs this actually to get into the finals. So she gets this, because she's currently got 1 top. If she doesn't get this, she'll have to do the last boulder, and she's not got many attempts to play with. So I think she really needs this to join the 3 tops club. Oh, and there it is, right on time. Katerina Sarwine.
What is it with the Austrians and women's 3? Her and Anna Sturr, both natives of Innsbruck. There's obviously something in the water there because they've both topped women's 3. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem to work for everyone because I live there and I don't think I could do women's 3, but it's working for those 2.
We could get a step ladder out for you, Charlie, to have a go on those top section.
Maybe if you give me a leg up, I stand a chance. It's quite interesting actually, sometimes when the competitions finish. Obviously I'm not possibly the best person to try them out, but we do, after the finals, sometimes get on the stage and have a go at the finals boulders, and when I can do one move, I normally consider that quite a success. But as I say, it's not necessarily saying much about the boulders, but as an everyday climber, if you like, I can assure you they are absolutely off the chart.
There's a bit of a stunned silence here in the arena at the moment. Melissa Lenev's just walked off. I don't think she actually topped any boulders.
No, didn't top a boulder. That's a real turn-up, actually. Melissa been consistently on World Cup podiums, and with Shauna Coxey out, not taking up what you would imagine would have been one of the top 6 spots here in Paris, you would really have fancied Melissa for at least a final spot, if not a podium, and potentially even a win. But you can see there, not today. Her time will come, I'm sure. Stasha is back out onto women's 4. Currently sitting pretty in 5th place, Stasha. I'm just going to bring you up to date with the men's lead. We haven't seen much of it, so you can choose to watch that. But in the meantime, before I do that, we'll just show you the results as they stand in the women's bouldering. So, don't believe they're up to date because we should have Katja Zauwein in there. Yeah, we should have Katja in there. We'll see. The results will update, I'm sure, very shortly. Yeah, just to bring you up to date with what's going on in the men's lead. We will, once this women's bouldering semi finishes, we'll stay on air and we'll bring you the tail end of the men's lead semi-final. But Domen Skofic, winner of 3 World Cups already this year, he leads away 45 plus. Gutierrez Zupper, Stefano Gasolfi making up the rest of the top 3. Urban Primozic, he's in the top 4. 4th place. Francesco Vetterata is in 5th. Loic Timmermans, he led the way briefly. He's in 5th place. He's in joint 5th with Francesco. And finally, Hannes Puman in 7th. And Fedir Samoilov of the Ukraine in 8th. So they are your current top 8 in the men's lead. As I say, when this women's boulder semi-final comes to an end, we will go and watch the remainder of the men's lead semi.
Akia Noguchi getting top there back in the bouldering on women's free. She really made that look quite easy, so she seems to be the on-form athlete here in Paris. She's possibly the one to beat. Stasher on women's 4, that was her first attempt. She did fall. She is currently sitting in 5th place, so she may already have made the finals, but getting women's number 4 definitely wouldn't hurt.
Let's have another look at Akio here. It's a good angle. You can see the compression element of this boulder. It's going up for that hole. There we go. Skip on a move. Top. Really satisfying puff of chalk as Akio Noguchi smacked the top there. It's Stasher. 2 minutes left in the round.
Here we go. Stash is currently sitting in 5th as the scores stand with 2 tops in 5.
Yeah, I think she climbs super well through the rest of the round, but I think she's probably going to want to top this boulder. I don't know, she's sitting in 5th, but Akio we got Akio's score updated yet? I think that'll put Akio ahead.
Yeah, Akia's got no issues currently for making finals. With getting number 3 done, you kind of feel that that's going to be enough. It does depend on the number of attempts she has if she doesn't get number 4, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised also if Mia tops out the next one. Yeah, so I think Stasha's going to want to finish this boulder off to make sure her spot's secure in finals.
We're just waiting for our results system to update here, just so we keep 100% up to date with the scores. It's quite surprising here. Stasha Geisha is a really, really strong athlete and struggling on women's 4, so maybe she's not the best slab climber in the world. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I've not followed her that closely this season, but she's a brilliant athlete and really, really cruised the qualifying round, so you would have thought that she would be able to make an impact on women's 4 just to guarantee her spot.
Yeah, she's currently dropped to 6th place. I think she'll do this, Stasha. She seems a lot more in control on this attempt. Oh, okay, commentator's curse seems to be particularly bad today. I apologise, Stasha. That to me looked a really controlled attempt.
Stasha's really going to want to get this done. She's got she's got potential of Katerina Zarwine taking her spot closely behind her. So, it doesn't look like she's got enough time. She's got 10 seconds left. Stasha really, really needs to get up this very, very fast. Otherwise, she is in danger of missing out on a finals position.
So, Stasha didn't top women's 4. We've had the vast majority of our climbers have topped that, and she does not look over the moon.
We've got potentially Nonaka and Katerina Zarwine who can knock her out for a finals position.
Let's have another look at that. I really thought she had it on this attempt. Just went to readjust, knew it was over. So she's going to have a pretty nervous few minutes.
Just saying about the shoes there earlier, again Charlie, she's wearing a stiff pair of downturned shoes there on a slab. You might think that that might not be the best choice for her, but you know, it comes down to personal preference. But she was just trying to sort of hill stand on that volume, and I think she might have needed to get, like we saw with the other athletes, getting the toe down and really standing up through the toe, getting maximum rubber on the volume up to the finish hold. A lot of the athletes not struggled with that boulder, so really surprising there from Stasia.
So the scoring getting pretty tight right now. As things stand, Stasia is in 6th place. Akia Noguchi is already ahead of her, so no matter what Akio does, she can't displace Stasia. She's already ahead. However, Katja Zauerwein can, and so can Miho Nanaka. So 3 climbers still involved in this women's boulder semi-final. Katja Zauerwein and Miho Nanaka can displace Stasia Giho and Elena Krasovskaya, excuse me.
That's a mouthful, that one.
They can displace her in those two in 5th and 6th.
So if we have a look here on women's free, Miho Nanaka, the athletes coming later out on in the semi-final. Oh, amazing flexibility to get the heel up there. Miho Nanaka gets it done, and she is looking on fire.
So that's 2 tops for Miho. That'll already be enough to knock Stasia out, depending on the number of attempts. I'm pretty sure she didn't use that many attempts there. Let's have another look. Can really control Miho.
Yeah.
So 2nd overall in the Boulder World Cups. And with the person who came first, Shauna Coxey, missing, you suspect that might make her the favourite. So yeah, we just had updated scores. Miho Nanaka has done enough to move up into joint 4th of the Akia Noguchi, and Stasia Giho misses out. So, Katja Zauerwein. It's now Elena Krasovskaya who is watching on nervously at what Katja Zauerwein does.
Yeah, it's all eyes on Katarina Zauerwein, sorry here. If she does this, she'll join the 3 tops club, which would be enough to make it into the finals. Currently sitting down in 10th, 2 tops in 6, so 2 tops in 3 is currently what you appear to need to get into the finals, but it looks like 2 tops in 2 is more likely to get you in. Katarina Zauerwein then really needs this.
The 3 tops club, as it stands, only has 1 member, Anna Sturp. Storming performance from the veteran Austrian. Katja just on that, that's exactly where we saw Stasia struggling. Yeah, needs this Katja. Currently joint 10th place, 2 top 6 attempts. If you are new to the sport, I understand that the scoring system is somewhat complicated, and far be it from me to suggest that it sometimes feels a bit complicated while we're trying to do the maths in the box, but it is a 4-tiered scoring system. Most important measurement: how many boulders did you top? Still tied? How many attempts did those tops take you? If you're still tied, how many bonus holds did you get? Each boulder has a bonus hold midway up it, and if the climbers are still tied after those 3 measurements, it's how many attempts were required to get those bonus holds. So, as I say, a 4-tiered system. It does mean we have to work quite hard on the maths, and do make the odd mistake. I apologise for that. We're trying to describe the action and check the score and do the maths at the same time. But yeah, it does mean we get a very clear and concise indication of who is the best climber once all the results are in. But it can make life on the fly a little tricky. Speaking of being a little tricky, Katja Zauerwein with that really impressive top and women's 3. So far not getting on with the women's 4.
Katarina Zauerwein needs this. She's got 23 seconds to get into the finals here in the World Championship, so if ever she needed to pull out an amazing performance on a slab, it's right now. 15 seconds left.
She's got 15 seconds. It's quite a time-consuming move, but I think the 10 seconds she now has left is enough. So close. Probably thought she was a bit tight at the time. I know it was a matter of seconds, but probably had time just to compose herself and go for that. But just lost the balance, as we saw with Stasia.
It's quite interesting on women's 4s from Melissa Lenneb onwards, really. We've not seen much action on the very top of this boulder. You do wonder if the nerves is playing a part at this stage in the competition. They probably know that they're going to need to do well on number 4, and when they come out and start struggling, it really is a mind game at that point, and some of the later athletes are really struggling with the slab.
So there we see it. The two climbers still to go, Miho Naka and Akio Noguchi, but they've already done enough to secure 4th and 5th. Whether they know that, I'm not sure. So our top 6 is already decided, and it will be Anna Sturr, Petra Klingler, Megan Mascarenhas, Akio Noguchi, Miho Naka and Elena Krasovskaya. That will be our final here in Paris. So a few really big names being knocked out. Stassi Geho, Clementine Kaiser, Katja Zauwein, Berit Schweiger, Chloe Collier, Melissa Neve down in 18th, Monica Recchi 20th today. What a final that's going to be.
Really a big turn up for the books for Elena from Russia there to make the World Championship final. That's I don't think anyone would have predicted that.
No, really. I mean, come from nowhere, if you like. We've not even seen her in a Boulder World Cup before. But, yeah, World Championship final. Extraordinary stuff from Elena.
Akio Noguchi suggesting that women's 4 hasn't changed in its difficulty. It is still easy for some, not for most. But Akio Noguchi is really looking on form throughout these tour of boulders, and it does really well there.
Let's have a look at our updated scores. The women's semi-final top 6, of course, already decided.
Yeah, that will put Akio in comfortably in first position with 3 tops in 3. So should be happy with that.
She joins the very elite 3 tops club, and she flashed all 3 of them. So we haven't seen a top on women's 2. Akio Noguchi, quite a strange round for her. Got no joy at all, no bonus, nothing from women's 2, but flashed everything else. So gives you some idea of how tough that women's 2 was.
Yeah, women's 2 is quite interesting. We only got 2 climbers to actually secure the bonus hold. The route setters will be kicking themselves potentially with that one. It's a really hard game though to set these sort of style problems with no holds.
So we see there the top 6 is confirmed. We're just now deciding the order. Akio Noguchi, Anna Sturr, Petra Klingler, Megan Mascarenhas, Miho Naka and Elena Krasovskaya will be your top 6. Stasha Geho, Clementine Kaiser, Lily Kiesken, Alma Bestvater all miss out. Remember, we will of course bring you the remainder of the men's semi-final when this women's boulder semi-final comes to conclusion, and all that's left to do is see out the remaining 1 minute 42 seconds of this round, which Akio Noguchi has not required on women's 4. And then we'll see Miho Naka. She's already guaranteed a place in the final. I suspect she knows that, but possibly not. In the meantime, we'll watch Sebastian Halenka. Never need to get the graphic on screen to know who it is when it's Sebastian Halenka. We must be at least 50 metres from him here in the arena, but before he even appeared on the screen, I was fairly sure who it was on the wall. Quite the haircut. He hasn't varied it up that much. It's been the red mohawk most of the year. Makes life easy for us. And he's fantastic to watch. Sebastian storms onto the stage, full of energy, goes through the moves. He's a really fun climber to watch, and it's great for us that we're going to get a really good look at this men's semi-final lead route. We've still got plenty of climbers still to come out. After Sebastian will be Adam Ondra. We'll then have Ramon Julien Ramonet, Sean McCullough, Roman Desgrange and Jakob Schubert still to climb. So we're going to get the pretty much the whole of the women's boulder semi-final, and then a good chunk of the men's lead as well. And this route that the lead route setters have provided for the men's semi is lots of long moves, it's powerful, it's mantle shelves. There aren't really many footholds on this lower section. In fact, Sebastian very kindly helping me out there by pointing out the only thing that is pretty much a designated foothold. Everything else is both a foot and handhold. And it's going to be a lot of matching, a lot of really tricky long mantle shelves. Fantastic route this. We had a brilliant route yesterday in the women's lead semi-final. I don't know, hopefully you got the chance to watch that on our dual stream on YouTube. We didn't see that much of it on our stream, but we did show the whole thing on YouTube. And it was a fantastic job of the route setters. It looked like they provided us with another cracking route today. And we don't have many ties so far looking down the existing score. Current tie in 7th place, 35 plus between Francesco Vetterato and Lurk Timmermans. but generally the climbers being well separated, falling off at different points along the route, which is exactly what we want to see. And there is Miho Nanaka. She'll be our last boulder semi-finalist. She's already guaranteed a place in the final. She'd like to join the very exclusive Three Tops Club, along with Akiya Noguchi and Anna Stor.
Yeah, so Miho Nanaka, she probably doesn't actually need, well, she doesn't need this to get through to the final. So the finals list for the women is sorted. They are provisional results, obviously pending any inquiries or any technical details. So we just see the end of the women's competition here out with Miho.
Yeah, so if Miho wants to go into first place on this one, I think she'll need to flash the boulder. Otherwise, we'll be seeing Akio staying in first place on that one. But she's definitely in the finals though, so that's pretty exciting for Miho. See a good shootout between the Japanese athletes in the final, I think. I think some of our later athletes are having a bit more trouble with this slab than the earlier guys led on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm not sure if anything has particularly changed with the boulder. It's, you know, this is the World Championship semi-final, so I think because they're struggling throughout the tour on women's 2 and 3, you kind of get the feeling that they knew they had to do number 4. Obviously, as we said earlier, you couldn't actually, they don't know the result per se, but you kind of think that the nerves and that is going to have an effect on the finalists, especially on a slab, like we said before. And Miho Nanaka, she's struggling, which is interesting, but she doesn't need to panic too much. She's already into the final, it would seem so far, so she can just kind of take it easy. And when she came out onto the stage, her time actually started, and she was still like a minute away from the boulder. I think she knows that she's comfortable, and she's just cruising, taking her time, make sure she doesn't pick up any injuries or niggles on the last boulder, and we'll just look forward to the final tomorrow.
I think you're right. I think you can definitely see the contrast between Miho. You know, she looks pretty relaxed, pretty casual. I think she's got a fair idea she's probably in. Whereas Stasha, for example, was getting on the boulder with 7 seconds to go, and I think she had a fair idea that she needed that to be in, and unfortunately she didn't get it. But I think that pressure she was putting on herself was the reason it didn't all come together.
Yeah, you can't help but think Miho would just try and put on a bit of a show here for the big crowd, and just kind of just try and get through it as much as she can. Like I said, without any too many issues. But it'd be great to see the women's bouldering semi-final go out on a bit of a high, and she seems to be cruising, and that is why Miho Nanaka has number 1 on the back of her shirt.
No, absolutely no issues with that one. I think that was second attempt.
Yeah, it wasn't many attempts, so she would join the exclusive Three Tops Club up there with Akiya Noguchi and Anna Stor, all sitting pretty top of the pile with 3 tops. Not 100% sure how many attempts that was, but Akiya has 3 and 3, Anna Stor 3 and 4. Looking down the list, Petra Kalinga's done really well to make the final, 2 tops in 2, with boulders number 1 and 4 being flashed. Miho Nanaka, just mentioned her. Megan Mascarenas looks like she's going to make the finals again, 2 tops in 2, boulders number 1 and 4. Nothing really on boulders 3 and 4. And Elena Krasnikova makes a final, 2 tops in 3. As you can see on the screen, the results there. Number 1, Akiya Noguchi, 2. Miho Nanaka, Team Japan 1-2, Anna Stor, Austria number 3, Switzerland, Petra Kalinga, Megan Mascarenas just 18, makes the final in 5, and the surprise, Elena Krasnikova for Russia in 6. That pronunciation could do with some work. Stasha Geho misses out narrowly, and Charlie, I think, has just actually gone to chat with her. She's particularly upset, as you can imagine. Missing out 7th is pretty much the worst place you can come in a semi-final.
Yeah, I think it's such a close semi-final. The difference between making it and not making it is really small. Like Katarina Salvine, for example, the whole way through I'm like, she's in, and then she couldn't do the slab, and that was the difference.
All right, so we're going to turn our attention back to the lead, and that is perfect timing because the one and only Adam Ondra is out next. Adam Ondra, the king of climbing. Adam doing really well in the bouldering yesterday. I do believe he came 2nd. So what an incredible athlete to be able to do a bouldering semi-final one day and then do a lead semi-final the next day. Charlie, what do you think? Adam Ondra, incredible athlete.
It's unbelievable, and the schedule is absolutely punishing. If you think about your own personal climbing, I mean, the climbers watching this, you go to the bouldering wall and you put in a really hard session. I don't know about anyone else, I feel like I can barely get out of bed the next morning. getting up on a World Championship stage in a semi-final in the bouldering last night. Bear in mind it was last night, so he's had less than 12 hours. I'm just looking at my watch. Maybe 12, slightly more than 12 hours, not long, to go from absolutely crushing in a boulder semi-final, and some of those boulders were so physical, and then you walk out on stage 12, 14 hours later, sorry, more than 12 hours, math's never been my strong point, but not long later, and to perform as we imagine he will do in a lead route is absolutely unbelievable. He'll then also have the boulder final, and you would have to say, we'll know for sure in 5 minutes, but chances are I'll have the lead final as well. It's an unbelievable schedule, but we saw the same in Arco. He just entered everything they'd let him enter. And
this guy's appetite for climbing is unreal, and I don't know about you, Charlie, but when he comes out he has that look in his eyes. This guy is savage. He just wants it so hard, and I get so nervous just watching him come out, because I just get sweaty, because he's such an impressive athlete, and you can just see the passion every time he comes out. He just wants to win.
He's a really interesting guy, Adam, because he burst onto the scene. We all know the statistics about grades he did when he was 13. That's fine, and people want to know where he came from. Is he just this freak of nature from the Czech Republic? But he's been climbing so long. His parents took him climbing when he could barely walk. He was obviously naturally good at it, had a very early passion for it, and he's just one of the secrets to Adam's success, not that it's really a secret, is he just climbs more than anyone else. I know that sounds ridiculous because these are professional climbers, but Adam just climbs and climbs and climbs. All disciplines, all aspects. He came to Britain on the British Gritstone, the legendary Gritstone. It's trad, it's supposed to be super scary. No problem for Adam. Some of the hardest routes in the Peak District. He's the only person to have climbed 9B plus.
Yeah, what's interesting now as well is with Adam Ondra, he's actually got a trainer a professional trainer. His coach, Pachi Ushubiaga, previous world champion in the lead. So to have a coach being Adam Ondra, I mean, what can you do when you start being coached? And I do believe he was on the phone to his coach last night after the bouldering semi-final, checking in, see what he needs to do to get ready for the lead. And it gives us an opportunity with Adam to have an opportunity to have a really good look at this route for the first time. And you can see the section he's just been through there with the blue volume, with the orange and yellow hold on it. The route setters have really put on a show with this semi-final, and we've managed to keep a glimpse on it. Hopefully you guys have too, but some really amazing performances through this steep section. Climbers one-arming the holds, spinning around, clipping with no feet on. This is really what we come to see here in Paris.
And this, you would imagine, would be a route that would suit Adam quite well, because it's quite reachy, and the wall here is so steep for so long that if you can move quickly, obviously you're on that steep section for less, and the physical difficulty of the route does ease slightly at this point. Just for 3 or 4 moves, it gets marginally easier. And for a climber like Adam, who climbs incredibly quickly, being able to get up and off and pass that really steep physical section is going to be a big advantage. And so far, this looking like a route that Adam is getting on with very well, and could be about to see our first top. Domin Skoffic so far leading the way in this men's lead. But yeah, Adam Ondra, I was saying earlier, nobody climbs more. He's just all disciplines, sport, lead, sport climbing, bouldering, even tries his hand at trad climbing, and he's pretty good at that as well. He just does it all.
Just as you can see now then, Adam Ondra onto the top quarter of the wall. This is a really physical section, lots of moves, the route setters have piled in a load of moves at the end of the route. So he's looking really, really comfortable at the moment. Starting to grimace slightly, but Adam Ondra in control so far. Come on, Adam.
Be great if we could see a top of this route. We always like to see a route top, just so you get to see every move. Adam fighting, you can see the elbows coming up. Even Adam Ondra gets tired.
This section's really hard to read as well, and
that will be enough to make the final. We haven't seen that many climbers, but from what I've been able to see from our commentary position, Adam certainly done enough there to make the final. And out next will be Ramon Julien. Pretty strong lineup, if you're fair to say. So yeah, Adam, not long after make it through to a boulder final here in the World Championships, I'm pretty sure has made the lead final as well. He is, of course, reigning champion in both disciplines, an extraordinary double in 2014. The World Championships were separate then. We had one for lead and one for boulder. As obviously in Paris they are at the same time, which adds an element to it. As Mike's already mentioned, the fatigue element kicks in. But it would take a brave man to bet against Adam retaining his titles in either discipline. He certainly in the lead looks absolutely superb, and not too many troubles in the boulder either, qualified for the final. A tiny bit to spare.
I think Adam's one of those amazing athletes. He can just turn it on in competitions whenever he pleases, really. Most people would dedicate themselves to the competitions, but he can just go outside climbing and then come into the competition, turn up on the world stage and just put on a show like that, and the crowd absolutely love to see here Adam in Paris.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to him in Arco, and he said he lost his motivation for the competitions a bit. He was going to take a year off, and then the World Championships started to loom, and he thought, actually, I quite fancy another few gold medals. And he's put in a bit of specific training, but as you say, most of his year this year has been outside. And jumps back on it, it's like he's never been away. So, Ramonet. Here is a man who's been very much focused on the World Championships in terms of his preparation. He was second in 2014 in the lead. Keep an eye on the top of your screen. We've got the men's lead results flashing across the top. For those of you who are new to the sport, it's a relatively, theoretically, doesn't always prove to be very simple, but theoretically quite a simple scoring system in lead, where each hold is given a number, so hold 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, and it's a competition of who can get the furthest up, so your score there is which hold you got to.
Ramon's just an absolutely incredible athlete, 34 years of age, been competing in the lead for many, many years, currently ranked 7th in the world, and always performs. This year, 8th in Arco and 7th in Imst, but before that, European Championship, Chamonix 2015, first place. Just first, second, first, fourth, all the way through his stats book.
Yeah, he's already won 2 World Championships, 2007, his home country of Spain, also won one in Arco in 2011. And he made no secret of the fact, I remember talking to him, admittedly through a translator. Ramon is Catalan. He's not an English speaker, but I obviously can't complain because I don't speak Catalan, but through a translator, had a chat with him in Chamonix, and he is absolutely focused on Paris. And interestingly enough, whatever he's doing is obviously working, because his results have steadily, it's not been a straight line, but they've steadily improved throughout the lead season, and he's really been aiming for this competition specifically. And I have to say, even visually, he looks leaner and slightly lighter than he has been in other comps. It's obviously one of the classic training tricks, train heavy, climb light. He certainly looks extremely lean right now. Not a lot of spare on Ramonet, and he has been specifically targeting this Paris World Championships.
Yeah, if you wanted an anatomy lesson on the upper body, just watch this guy climb, because you can just see every sinew, every muscle. He is stripped down and he's ready for this. And last time I saw him here in Paris, 2012, the World Championships, he was a little bit disappointed with his result. So he's hopefully 4 years later, he's hoping to redeem himself on that route. Back in the last time we were here in Paris, he did get kind of a bit lost on the route. But hopefully nothing like that will happen today. And this next section coming up is such an incredible bit of route setting that really gets the crowd going. Have a look at this, just walking through.
I thought he was going to clip from there. I was just moving the rope. Yep. Ramon, there's definitely parts of his arms that I just don't have. It's not a matter of definition, they just don't exist for me. There's several muscles I can see there on the outside of his arm that I'm pretty sure I don't have, which could explain the difference in mine and Ramonet's performances on the rock. So yeah, just struggling a bit with the clip, but he figured out the 360 quick enough, and he's hanging there in a kind of one-arm pull-up, seemingly having a bit of a rest.
For those guys watching at home, like they make that look easy, but hanging there off one arm clipping, most people couldn't really take their body weight like that, and never mind in the middle of a World Cup semi-final route, and then to carry on through there. They've got to be careful not to kind of showboat too much through there, and just kind of conserve some energy to get later on in the route. But they're obviously...
Yeah, real contrast in styles here. Ramonet much slower than Adam Ondra. Adam known for his fast climbing, but Ramonet really taking his time and seemingly not being fatigued by being on this massively overhanging wall for quite a long spell. And Campbell Harrison, IFSC athlete, member of Team Stryer, next to me. When you watch people like Adam Ondra and Ramonet, what is your overriding feeling? Do you think I'll never be that good, or does it just inspire you and you think, yeah, I can do that, I can be up there?
No, it's definitely inspiring, and I think it's really inspiring to see, especially between those two athletes, like such a stark contrast in their body types. Ramone is so small and so light, and he's been doing it for so long, whereas Adam's still reasonably young, quite tall. I think I'm like 6 foot, and I think he's still quite a bit taller than me. So super impressive to be seeing an athlete like that still performing well on the circuit. And yeah, like you were saying before, there's no one like Adam who can just step out from climbing on the rock and start crushing on the plastic. Everybody else, they're focused on it. It's their life. Their life is competition. And he's just that good.
Yeah, it's really good to hear, actually, because obviously as a recreational climber like myself, it's half inspiring, but it's almost half demoralising. I watch Adam Ondra and Ramone, and I just think, it's not the same sport as me. It's great to hear that, for a guy like yourself emerging onto the competition scene, that you think, yeah, okay, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. No, but I definitely know what you mean. You kind of sit here and you're like, oh, well, what am I doing with my life then? But no, I think you've got to, whilst they're inspiring, you have to remember that they're also your competitors. Like, having not made the semi-finals yet, it's hard to remember that I was competing against these guys in the qualifications. I'm still trying to beat them up the route, not quite getting there just yet. But it's something you have to keep in mind, that they're not just your idols, they're your competitors, and you have to want to beat them fiercely.
And how do you go about, if you like, humanising them? Do you make an effort to chat to the top guys? Do you socialise with them at all? Do you get a chance to pick their brains?
To an extent, I guess you don't necessarily seek them out. Everybody at the competition is trying to stay as focused as they can, and these guys being in the finals are trying to stay focused for a lot longer than some of the other athletes who are just making qualifications or semis. But if you get the opportunity, you're never going to say no to chatting to an athlete like Adam about his training, and if they're willing to give you any information, even if it's just a tiny little bit about their training, you take it and you implement it as best you can.
Yeah, we're just waiting for our scores to update on the men's lead semi-final. There we go, we have it. So we didn't get to see many previous high points, but I can confirm that Adam Ondra did take the lead. He certainly got further than Ramone. Yeah, Ramone takes 4th, so he's sitting pretty in 4th. 3 climbers still to go, so he's guaranteed his place in the final. Remember, from the 26 athletes taking part in this men's lead semi-final, 8 will progress to the final. Still got Sean McCall. We caught a glimpse of him there. There he is. Stand still, Mr. Cameraman. There we go, Sean McCall. He's still to climb, as is Roman de Grange and Jakob Schubert. So 3 climbers still to go, which means that our top 5 are already guaranteed a place in the final. They can't be knocked out, because with 8 going through, if you're currently in 5th and 3 climbers to go, you can't be knocked out. So that means the final will definitely contain Adam Ondra, Domen Skofic, Gutierrez Upper, Ramon Julian, Kachiro, Coronago, excuse me. Watching this very nervously, you would imagine, will be Stefano Gasolfi, Sebastian Halenka and Dmitry Fakiryanov, who are currently 6th, 7th and 8th. They can be knocked out depending on the performance of the next 3 athletes, including Sean McCollum. We talked earlier about the fact that Adam Ondra is taking part in 2 events. Sean's taking part in all 3. Of course, Sean does compete in virtually every World Cup in every discipline. We haven't seen him recently. He's had a series of personal commitments, weddings to attend in Canada, so we didn't see him competing in the European rounds in August, but he's back in Europe after a good block of training, and you suspect a few boogies on the dance floor at the weddings. And can he dance on this wall here? One of my better puns, if I may say so myself.
I'm excited to watch Sean. I think lead this year is arguably his best discipline. Well, he managed to take a gold medal in Villars in Switzerland. Yeah, the Chamonix wall is a long one. It's really steep, and focusing on all 3 disciplines, I think one of the sacrifices he does have to make is his endurance, and so if he gets bogged down for too long at the start of this route, that might be to his detriment. But I think otherwise the style of the movement throughout the climb really suits him. So we could be seeing a good performance from him as long as he manages to stave off the pump for the tricky moves at the top of the head wall. Oh,
Sean, unusual clipping spot, but it means he's got it done. No, I don't think he's quite read that 360 right, but who cares when you can do that? That's certainly not how they envisioned it being done, but Sean is a man on a mission. It's flying up this route. Almost looks impatient climbing, as if he just wants to get he wants to know his result almost.
Definitely something I was seeing with the kind of the lead climbing purists earlier on in the round is no matter what they're doing, they're always trying to shake out. Even in the campus moves, in between each move, flicking the fingers, trying to get everything back, but he just kind of went straight through that like he was still in a bouldering mode, I think. But it works for him. He has a style that I think for a lot of people, I know for me, I couldn't move that quickly. I'd get flamed, but it just seems to work for him, and it's super impressive.
It's possibly a symptom of doing all the disciplines, you know, the fast twitch muscles and speed. Bouldering's a whole different set of movements and skills and muscle memory to lead, so perhaps that's where it comes from. Perhaps it's just his natural style, but yeah, Sean's certainly absolutely a man on a mission here. Doesn't want to hang about. He won't be taking part in the men's boulder final. He finished 14th in the semi. Obviously he would like to make every final, but I suppose the one positive you would say is that it does free up his schedule a bit more. If he was to make this lead final, he gets a bit more rest. Powering through this top section. Keep an eye on the top of your screen for the updated results.
It's funny though, because he does make a switch as he starts to get pumped, as he starts to get tired. He goes from just kind of, you know, a get it done attitude to this really precise movement. And there we go. I think his endurance just kind of failed him towards the end of that one. But yeah, super impressive the way he can just, I think sometimes when I start a route, if I go into it with the mindset I'm going to climb super quick, I'll often fall off because I climb something too quickly, whereas he can just switch between the two like it's nothing.
Yeah, he just get the impression he can just shift gears. And one thing that's really nice about Sean is, not now, he's just recovering his breath, but always got a smile on his face. First thing he does when he walks out, waves to the crowd, usually gives them a wave when he's off, and when possible gives them a wave from when he's on the route. So he's a really enjoyable climber to watch. It's great to have him back. It wasn't quite the same over August, not having him in Munich in Monaco, but he's back in Europe and see him climbing very well. Of course, he's already won a Lead World Cup this year, back on the top step of the podium after a few years break. There we go, wave to the crowd. Happy man.
Yeah, he definitely has an attitude and a love for the sport that you notice when it's not around.
Yeah, so just to let you know where that puts him, that puts Sean in joint fourth with Kachiro Korinaga and Ramon Julian. Exactly the same move that we saw Ramon fall off. And here is Romain Desgrange. He won in Arco 2 or 3 weeks back. We had quite a fun moment from my point of view where we were watching the replay of Romain battling it through the roof at Arco. Suddenly he appeared, I felt this hand on my shoulder, and Romain was right behind us watching the replay and enjoying it just as much as us. Unfortunately, he didn't want to put one of our headsets on. He does speak some English, but he's not especially confident. He doesn't really like speaking English, to be perfectly honest. And he didn't want to join us to say anything, but it's quite nice to sit there watching it with him. And amusingly enough, as we were umming and ahhing and ooh as he was going further up the route, he was doing exactly the same, having watched it himself. So yeah, won in Arco, and what he would give to win here in Paris in front of not a home crowd. He lives in Chamonix these days, but it's the French crowd.
I think if he can push all the way through the first steep section of this route, I think he's going to destroy the head wall. Absolutely destroy it.
Has of course been European champion, but he's not won a World Championship. If you normally watch our World Cups and you're wondering what the World Championship is and where it comes on, it's a one-off event. We have it every 2 years, so it is completely separate from the IFSC World Cups. The format is exactly the same in terms of scoring, the numbers of people in each round, in the semi-finals and the finals, but it's a one-off event every 2 years. And we cover all 3 disciplines as well as the paraclimbing. And in terms of prestige, spectator numbers, venues, this is really, if you like, the biggest competition that we run at the IFSC. So it's run in conjunction with the IFSC World Cups, but it is separate. It's a one-off event, which in a discipline like lead is really difficult, because in the semi-final and the final it is one route only. You make one miscalculation, foot slips, it's over. The World Championship is over. You've got to wait 2 more years.
You almost had to top the routes to make it through to the semi-final. There were 2 groups, and all 4 routes, I think you had to at least be hitting the last hold if you had any intention of making it through to the next round. And it's super intimidating too, because obviously in the World Cups you have super strong fields, but for the World Championships everybody comes. There are 104 male lead athletes. Almost all of the world's strongest climbers who have any interest in competition come along to this event. And so it's super intimidating as an athlete, but it's also incredibly motivating, and it's a great learning experience to be able to see so many world-class athletes all in one place.
We see here Romain Negronge. He looked like he just needed to compose himself a bit. I wonder if the occasion just maybe got a bit too much adrenaline pumping. We could see him really doing some heavy breathing on what resembles a rest by the standards of this route, midway up the huge triangular, but can't even really call it a volume, the feature that dominates the centre of this lead wall. And we saw Romain having a really good few deep breaths. As I say, I wonder if he just came out, one look at the arena and the crowd, friends and family and everyone else, and just got that shot of adrenaline that maybe wasn't that helpful. So it suddenly looks a bit calmer. Had a few issues with the 360 turn. All the climbers that we've seen on the route have spotted that first time, but they've all had a few issues getting the rope management right. Romain, exactly the same, read it perfectly, just had to flick the rope, and now finding a bit more of a rhythm. A few less physical moves, I don't want to say easier, but yeah, slightly less physical than what they've preceded them.
Well, the way you can sit your feet beneath you in this section definitely does help you get a little bit back. But yeah, no, I think the holds are pretty terrible the whole way through, just because you do have that support in your lower body. But yeah, no, this guy has the ability to crimp and squeeze like no one else. I look at the way it just bears down on the hold fully closed, and his fingers they don't open.
Now once he's got his hand on it, it's not letting go. It's amazing in Arco. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. Romain Negronge absolutely battled his way to that win. And one thing's for sure, he's not going to give anything other than 110% in front of his home crowd here. Just trying to figure out these moves here. That's where we saw Sean McCall and Ramon.
A little bit of a rush with his feet, I think. When you get pumped, you can start to panic sometimes. I think that happened to him a little bit through there.
So Romain Negronge doesn't look over the moon with that. We'll wait for the updated score. Yeah, he looked in complete control up today. You can see what it took out of him though. He's panting hard. If you're just joining us for the last 5-10 minutes of our broadcast this morning, I've got Mike Langley, professional route setter, alongside me. And we've got a member of Team Australia and IFSC athlete Campbell Harrison as well. And we're about to watch our last climber of what has been a packed morning schedule, Jakob Schubert. We had him briefly in the commentary box yesterday during the men's boulder semi-final. He's about to climb now. He is a man who will have his eye at the very, very least on a place in the final. At least. Certainly be in the short list of people you would expect that could win this competition. He would have been before the qualifiers began. He climbed superbly in them. Can he back it up in the semi-final?
Yeah, definitely. I think he hasn't taken a first place yet this season, but he just always looks strong all through the qualifications and the semis and the finals. Just always looks like he's climbing well, and I think he's really on form, even though he hasn't managed to win one just yet. And there's every chance that Paris could be that event.
Yeah, just to let you know, the scores have updated. The reason I was slightly hesitant to give you a provisional score for Roman de Grange was it looked good to me for a place in the final, but he came down looking pretty unimpressed. Obviously he doesn't know exactly where he needs to get to, but Roman didn't look particularly happy with his performance, which did surprise me, and I was right to be surprised because he has done enough for 4th place. I was pretty sure he had. Really, it seemed very strange when he lowered off a bit nonplussed, but as I say, he obviously doesn't have access to the exact score and where he needs to get to, so perhaps felt he could have got a bit further. But anyway, he has done enough. So our final will be the following 7 men: Adam Ondra, Domen Skofic, Gutia Zuppa, Roman de Grange, Ramon Julian, Kichiro Koronaga and Sean McColl. However, that is the top 7. The final position will either be Stefano Ghisolfi, who will be watching this with one eye closed, you would imagine, nervously seeing how Jakob Schubert does. It will either be Stefano or Jakob. Jakob obviously not got that same incredibly quick style like we've seen from Sean and Adam. Very controlled and composed. This lower section of the route. He's about to launch himself onto the steepest section of this huge lead wall here in Paris, and the crowd are really filling out. We've got a sellout for tonight. It makes the spine tingle thinking about what the atmosphere is going to be like. We hope you can join us. We've got a packed schedule. We've got the opening ceremony at 5 p.m. and then we'll be live 5:30 p.m. Men's Boulder final. What an event that's going to be. Keep an eye on the top of your screens for updated scores on this lead event, by the way. Then at 7 p.m. we've got the paraclimbing male B1 final. We then have podium ceremonies for both those competitions. And then at 9 p.m. we start with the men's speed final, which is followed by the women's lead final, and then again the podium ceremony for both of those events. So a packed schedule this evening. Don't want to miss a minute of that. And then tomorrow we also have a packed afternoon for you. We've got the women's boulder final, paraclimbing men's AL2 final, followed by the 2 podiums, women's speed final, men's lead final, followed by podiums, and the closing ceremony. So if you had any plans for this weekend, cancel them. Get yourself lots of crisps, get the kettle going, get yourself a crate of beers. We've got a huge amount of world-class climbing action coming up for you live from Paris for the remainder of this weekend. Don't miss a minute of it.
Just what you're saying there, Charlie, about the atmosphere in the stadium building up. I've just been taking in some of the vibe here in the arena just whilst I was off the microphone there. Sean McCall actually graced us with his presence in the crowd and immediately got completely swamped by some of his young fans. Hundreds of kids going for autographs, and security did have to step in and take Sean away, which unfortunate for some of the kids, but just shows how excited a lot of the fans are to be here and see these athletes in action. And Sean McCall, what a legend for going down there and taking some autographs. Speaking of legends, Jakob Schubert joined us yesterday. I don't know how this guy can go from just chatting away in the box one day to a lead semi-final coming out last the next. He just takes it all in his stride.
Yeah, but Mike, now you're in the commentary box. That's what's going to happen. When you walk down the steps and in the audience, you're going to be the new Sean McCall. I mean, did you not realise this?
Yeah, I have been sharpening my pencils, actually.
Yeah, I always carry a felt tip marker just ready to sign autographs in my back pocket. Not had it out yet in 2016, but I wait with bated breath. The day will come. Of course, not the athletes, of course, the stars here putting on a fantastic show. I can't wait for these finals this evening. Remember, of course, that although we've split our coverage today between bouldering and lead, we are focusing on each individual event from here on out. There'll be no more splitting our time and reading out scores from other events. We will focus just on one event at a time. One event, one climber.
So Jakob here, if he wants to make the final, would need to knock out Stefano Ghisolfi from Italy with a 42 plus. To give you a bit of an idea where that is, that's we just saw Roman de Grange, so that's sort of a move and a half, slightly lower than him. So we're going to need to see Jakob get high up on the head wall here to make finals. You know, if the form book's anything to go by, Jakob has focused just on this competition, so we really expect to see him do really well. And you know, fingers crossed, maybe we'll see a top.
Yeah, it would be particularly harsh on Stefano Ghisolfi, of course. In a way, finishing one place outside the final is arguably the worst place to finish, if you like. And Stefano Ghisolfi, in his home World Cup in Arco 3 weeks ago, finished exactly in 9th place. that could be 2 events running for him. That is absolutely heartbreaking. But that is the reality and the harshness of competition at this level. And when you've got a guy like Jakob Schubert last on the wall, you've got to be pretty nervous.
Yeah, Jakob's, as we said earlier, has completely dedicated himself for this lead championships. He's not doing the bouldering like he has done previously. Jakob's looking pretty steady so far, working his way onto this slightly easier section, but from here on in, it's hard, and the route set has made it harder and harder to finish the route, so it just gets, just ramps up more and more and more, and it's getting close here to the finals position here, Jakob, so let's just keep an eye on him. Come on, Jakob. You can see him working hard, see him breathing hard. Fantastic camera angle here. Gives you an idea just how bad those holds are so high on the route.
That's enough for Jakob. He'll be there. He whirls Stefano Ghisolfi.
Yeah, Jakob did an awesome performance there. It's plenty to get into the final, so Jakob Schubert won't be disappointing his fans here in the arena and will make the finals.
We'll stay on air long enough to confirm Jakob's score for you, but he's done enough. Poor Stefano Ghisolfi, 9th place in his home event. Comes to the World Championships, probably just about got over the disappointment, and exactly the same thing happens. And if it wasn't harsh enough, he's knocked out by the last person in the semi-final round. Poor old Stefano Ghisolfi. Spare a thought for him. So the crowd begins to disperse here. We've got a relatively long break. It's just before 12 o'clock Paris time. Nearly 5.5 hours until we're back, so we'll confirm it. So there it is, Jakob Schubert. I said he'd done enough to make it. Sean McCall, we saw him earlier. He looked very happy with his performance. Only just snuck in as it turned out, but your final will be Adam Ondra, Domen Skopic, Gutius Upper, Romain de Grange, Jakob Schubert, Ramon Julian, Kachiro Koranaga, and Sean McCall. What a lineup that will be. And we just see some of the climbers that missed out there. Oban Primozic, Loic Timmermans, Francesco Vetterata. They might all have been hoping for slightly better. Ditto Sasha Lehmann and a couple of others. But our top 8, incredibly strong. That lead final is going to be extremely tight in the men's competition. A few more names a bit further down. Masahiro Higuchi and Tomo Ioannis might be expected slightly more from them. But we mentioned it a few seconds ago, the harshness of the competition. So an action-packed Saturday here in Paris has got underway with a flying start. We'll be back at 5:30 p.m. with the men's boulder final, and then we've got a whole evening of climbing action for you. Don't miss a minute of it. We'll see you then.